Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Level 1 News. Today is June 8th, and today we're doing government and security. The first part of this whole section is basically, oops, all ransomware stories. So you have that to look forward to. But before that, Wendell has some new sodas to try this week.
Well, it was in the box from last week. Thank you, random citizen. Yeah. So this one claims it's a little citrusy, and then this one is Sour Me Unicorn Farts.
What's the first one called?
Sun Lab? Young Souls? I don't know. They really need to work on that. Krista, they need some design love here. I mean,
I don't have the webcam up today. I can't see the can.
I could see women like being into that vibe in that can. Like you're on the beach. Yeah.
It says Hazy India Pale Ale with Citra, Yukonot, and Sriracha rice.
Sriracha? Is that?
Wow. They do. I think the copywriters work harder than anybody in the liquor business.
Oh, speaking of copy, my favorite new word from this week's news is the word for Amazon's workers, the warehouse workers. We'll try the unicorn farts next.
This is not technically in the running for an orange soda review because it's not an orange soda.
Well, it does have a. Do you want a citrusy? It's citrus pomegranate.
It's gonna.
Is it a beer?
It's still got hops in it though. It tastes mostly like that.
Yeah.
Ugh. I don't like beer normally, but like with citrus, I feel like that would be strange.
I don't really care for beer, but it's pretty drinkable. It's weird because like the beer and the hoppiness is kind of a brown flavor in my mind, and the citrusy stuff is kind of an orange flavor, so it is kind of like a brown and orange mix, which doesn't really work out in the color spectrum either.
Are they might be brown after they roast them. They roast them, right?
It's not bad.
Now we do it for those of you who enjoy the soda reviews. I did pick up some San Pellegrino.
Ooh.
And then we still have 2 or 1 left.
Well, on the weekly office reorder thing, I think there's 1 left. 1, yes. And on the weekly office reorder thing, I added the orange cream soda. But twice in a row now, they have not. They're like, we don't have that.
It's because the health department took all of it.
Or is that full sugar?
No, the health department took Orange Crush. That's what actually happened to Orange Crush. So.
Yeah, it's still pretty low out there. But we'll see. All right. Well, that was Sun Life?
Nope. Sun Lab.
Oh, Sun Lab, of course.
Kind of a weird name.
If I was going to create a space lab, I would position it on the sun.
This is 1 pint, 7% alcohol by volume.
That's pretty good.
That seems fairly alcoholic for me.
Down it. Chug it.
I was looking for ingredients, but I don't see that. This is definitely like,
really good.
A hand. This is basically a peel and stick label. So this is not, a high production value.
You might get some hate for that. That's what they want, though. It's like artisan.
Yeah, this is definitely an artisan product. I mean that in I mean no disrespect. It's
probably
it's an artisan product.
It's probably bottled in the same plant as everything else. They just rent the time. All right, well, let's get to it. And as Krista warned you, a lot of ransomware. The big one, of course, was the meat plant attack. And we were all worried there for a minute that we might not get our delicious meats. Seems like it's okay now. But it does show how vulnerable we are with the stupid supply chain.
A Russian cybercriminal group was behind the meat plant attack, the FBI says. Meat processing plants operated by JBS, which handles a fifth of the cattle and hog slaughter in the U.S., coming back online Wednesday.
The group was called Revil.
They've done stuff before.
Ransomware Evil, yeah, that's what that stands for.
Yeah, and so they're going to go after them, but what are you going to do? And they weren't the only one. This one, a much bigger name that we've all probably heard of.
Fujifilm becomes the latest victim of a network-crippling ransomware attack. We should probably spin off and do some cybersecurity videos, because there's a lot of people that could probably change professions, because there's a lot of need for cybersecurity professionals.
Well, they point that out, and not only is there a great need for it, but there's now competition between the government space and the business space.
Yeah.
Because everybody's realizing all at once that they're deficient.
If you've been watching the Level 1 news for years, we've been telling you for years that you're deficient. Everyone is deficient.
And
That's really frustrating if you're like the security guy at one of these companies, and it's like you've probably been begging for the funds to upgrade stuff for years, and no one's done it.
There's always people in our comments that are like, look, I've been begging for money to upgrade our Windows XP machines for 3 years now, and they won't give it.
And our last ransomware story, you might be thinking, well, you know what? I don't use Fuji products, although I think they make a lot of stuff. Maybe not that gets sold here. And I don't eat meat. So I'm immune to this. But what? Do you commute? Because the ransomware people can get you everywhere. Land, sea, and air.
I didn't eat anything, and I said nothing. And the ransomware attack disrupts Massachusetts ferries. And then they came for the ferry operators, and there was no one left to speak up for them. The ferries, yeah. Getting you from point A to point B because there's not a road or a bridge.
Now you might be thinking, what kind of software is on these ferries? Ferries themselves were fine. It was the ticketing system that was down.
Or at least it wasn't Flash, like the train that was shut down in China because of the Flash end of life. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh, oops. Yeah, well, we already talked about this one.
Top meat supplier is the victim of a cyber attack. This one's from Axios. It actually does have some information in it that the other article did not have. Namely that they actually had some reasonable incident response, I guess you would call it.
I think some of them were back on by Wednesday, and this happened when?
Like Friday?
Was it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got it back together. I imagine there was plenty of meat at the supermarket, but those beef prices, whew,
Are they high?
I don't know if that's a direct result, but
I want memes of guys with tarps in the back of their truck just loading up on meat.
You mean like just throwing raw meat into the tarp?
Yeah.
Not bothering with coolers?
No.
Like how people did with the gas.
Yeah.
When they were just filling it in bags.
Or like they did at the wet markets.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing went wrong there. So, what do you do about all this? I mean, you got to feel pretty helpless, right? Because it's not like we can do anything about the security personally, and we can't necessarily say I'm not going to use these products because we don't know.
My favorite lead into that is the Krebs story, where it was like, just add a Russian keyboard and most ransomware will just stop running. Because
But what I'm saying is, I didn't get ransomware. My meat did.
Yeah.
What can I do about that? Not a thing. And so the government wants to get involved. This sounds good, but there's some language in here that's really scary.
Reuters reports that exclusive a U.S. to give ransomware hacks a similar priority as terrorism, officials say. The Justice Department is going to treat this as basically economic terrorism, and especially if it's the same criminal groups and criminal gangs over and over again, we will respond with lethal force.
So, that sounds good, right? Just ransomware. Well, no. Obviously, when the government does something, the scope is always a little too much. And here, I would argue that it is a lot too much.
Illicit online forums or marketplaces, cryptocurrency exchanges, what? Bulletproof hosting services, botnets, and online money laundering services. Now remember, Mt. Gox was an online money laundering service.
That sounds like just everything the government doesn't like. So you must notify if anything happens and you operate one of those things. I mean, if you operate a coin mixing service, you're not talking to the government ever. So now you will be in violation if something happens to your users.
I was thinking more about it from like the Krebs on security angle, because what world does it make sense that like if you're a cyber criminal and your malware gets deployed on a machine that has a Russian keyboard, that it's like, oh crap, the Russian authorities, they're really something to be feared. And I was like, oh yeah, American businesses, they're ripe. No, nothing bad will ever happen there.
Yeah, but by doing that, they're moving more toward the Russian model. Is that what we want?
Probably not.
Ransomware people are not the only ones getting ground into that boot.
Yeah.
When it happens. So, yeah, it's a tough question.
Speaking of being ground under the boot.
Yeah, I don't know if tyranny is the answer. Yeah, this one, I mean, I guess it's kind of nice that you are less likely to get caught up in these laws, but this guy should not get away with what he did.
Yeah, it's like this headline is amazing, and then you read the story and it's just like, good lord. The Supreme Court narrows the scope of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which is a computer hacking law that has been abused by prosecutors forever. Anybody remember Aaron Schwartz? Pour one out for Aaron Schwartz. He was the guy that was hounded into suicide by an overzealous prosecutor because he had the gall to post academic journals online without permission.
Of course, we have the Sci-Hub thing playing out exactly the same way. So the case here was a cop, or was it an FBI agent?
It was a cop. It was just a regular old sergeant type cop.
A cop was bribed to run a license plate. So he had no investigation related to this license plate.
He had a side gig as a private eye or something like that.
Right. And someone was like, hey, I need this information. And they bribed him. He bribed the person at the check. And it was discovered. And the argument is he did have access to that system. So we did not force access. Thus, he is not afoul of that law. Now, he still lost his job, but he should be prosecuted for that. That's color of authority.
Yeah,
he should get 10 times the sentence.
Yeah, that's what the ruling said, that the language in the CFAA is way too broad because it makes literally everybody a criminal. It makes somebody who does online shopping with their work computer a criminal. It makes somebody who listens to music on their work computer, if that's not allowed, a criminal. It's the language there is too broad.
How fast would Amazon prosecute if you were using a break room computer to do something personal, to check your Facebook?
They don't let you listen to music or anything, even when you're out on the floor.
I say that knowing there's no such thing as a break room computer at Amazon. But I'm just saying, they would definitely abuse that if they could.
If there were a break room computer, it would be facial recognizing you and giving you stats on how long it took you to pee.
So, that's a weird one. I guess it's good that, it creates more freedom. Although that cop got away with it, which is
worst case.
Why was this one the one to go to the Supreme Court? I mean,
and why did they choose that one to?
You know why.
So subscriptions. Now, you remember a while back we talked about the dark patterns and the hard to unsubscribe things.
This article doesn't mention that law that makes it's supposed to be, you make the unsubscribe as easy as the subscribe.
But a lot of people in the comments at that point pointed out some of the difficulties that they had. And I think I mentioned Luna Plus, and somebody was like, oh, I can't get away from Luna Plus. I did it yesterday. It's literally one click. You go to your subscription page, you cancel.
They fixed it.
It gives you the rest of the month. I don't know if they fixed it or if that was just bad info, but they aren't as bad as some, but there are definitely some that are absolutely terrible. Some of these apps.
Yeah.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Federal officials are going to clamp down on deceptive subscription marketing at a broad range of firms. So finally, there might be some federal law that makes it easier to unsubscribe. The article does cover things like European people have an easier time with some of this. The article, strangely, it mentions some laws that were enacted in the past to try to deal with aspects of this, but strangely, and it talks about laws specifically in California, but it doesn't really talk about a couple of the laws that have passed, one of which was in California, which is basically that if it's one click to subscribe, it also has to be one click to unsubscribe. Or if you have to fill out 7 forms to subscribe, then it's okay to make somebody fill out 7 forms to unsubscribe. That's fine.
I gotta think this is gonna be the same kind of situation with a lot of the ransomware stuff. The biggest offenders here might not be in the U.S.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
I guess it's easier to just turn off that payment and not face consequences.
Yeah, if they're in the Apple App Store, you just ask Apple to turn their app off.
That's one way to do it. Yeah, you're gonna just call Apple up, get them on the phone. Is that what you're going to do?
Well, I think that the federal government will have no problem convincing Apple to do that, seeing as how they're
No, what I'm saying as an individual.
Oh, yeah.
If you stab somebody at the Apple Store, you might get their attention. Maybe. And Amazon warehouse workers, I feel for you, because I imagine this unseasonable heat is no fun in an Amazon warehouse. They don't cool those things, right? Other than big fans.
Yeah.
Because it would probably be too expensive. And not only that, but also because of your healthcare bills.
Amazon warehouse injuries 80% higher than competitors, a report claims. This report breaks down the number of injuries per 100 full-time equivalent across warehouse businesses and all employers in general. And yeah, it is significantly higher. One question that I had was, I don't think that the warehouse jobs are necessarily apples to apples. So non-Amazon warehouses, like, what does that look like? Are they as high volume as Amazon? Are they as much traffic as Amazon?
Probably are, because if they're not, then they probably schedule the work so that there's always enough to do.
Yeah. This is also maybe a little misleading, even doing it as per 100 full-time equivalent employees, because we know that Amazon warehouses are among the most automated warehouses there are. Are the injuries related to that automation, or because people are being asked to keep up with machines and so they're injuring themselves?
Now, this data came from a labor group that is all about unions. Now, we know that that's a contentious relationship, but I think they were just analyzing data that was given by Amazon themselves.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they did they didn't talk to these people themselves. They didn't do the polling. They just analyzed the data. And I think one newspaper double-checked them, and they said, yep, it's really that bad.
You think that Amazon warehouse workers get health insurance?
Probably not. They probably don't give them enough hours for that, right?
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know.
If not injured on the job, you also can't afford to go to the doctor to fix it.
I cut out the actual story about it because they're the same thing. But here's what you alluded to earlier. They have some new training material at Amazon to talk to you about how difficult your job is. One of the crazy statistics here is that cumulatively through a 4-hour shift, I think, or maybe it's an 8-hour shift, you lift 20,000 pounds.
So you need to prepare for that. Yeah, that's actually in the training material. It was like, you need to be prepared for, expending 400 calories an hour and doing all of the weightlifting and exercise outside of regular business hours so that your body is ready for this.
And
no lunch breaks, though.
And if you can get that far, you can call yourself this coveted title. Do you think they'll have, is this a flag on your work account?
It's like the stars at Cracker Barrel. You have it, put on your apron.
We should put this on a t-shirt, right?
Industrial athletes.
Ugh.
Whoever came up with that name is brilliant, but also
a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there's one Amazon worker who is just so proud of being an industrial? You think so?
Yeah. The whole, there was the really famous song about the railroad when they were automating laying down the railroad.
Is it Casey Jones?
Casey Jones, yeah. It's like there are people like that working for Amazon that are like Casey Jones. And if Amazon paid well and didn't work you to death, that would probably be an immensely satisfying job. It's like I'm going to put in 6 hard hours and, Casey Jones it up. That could be a good living.
I don't think so. After a month or two, the repetition. And like Krista said, you can't even listen to music.
I guess
it's just mind-numbing.
Casey Jones got to enjoy the great outdoors and
got to take breaks, didn't have to pee in a bottle.
No, he didn't get to take breaks, Krista. Krista, spoiler alert, he died.
He died doing what he loved.
And Amazon, outside the warehouse, has some other controversy to deal with, and it seems like they have gotten enough pushback on this one that they're finally going to make a little bit of a change.
No change at all.
Not a lot.
This is a PR move. There's functionally no change here.
Well, but the nosy homeowners association women can now keep track of everything that happens. That's the addition here.
Yeah, Amazon's Ring will ask police to publicly disclose when they request video, but your homeowners association will also have access to your Ring video.
It's that neighbors thing that they have. So if a cop wanted your footage, they would approach you directly. They would message you through Ring, I guess, right? The UI. But now they got to go through that neighbors thing, and everybody can see that request, or at least the people on your list, I guess. I don't know how neighbors works exactly. Can I go and just look at the neighbors of any geographic location, or do I have to have a Ring there?
I'm pretty sure you'd have to have something there. Amazon has to it seems like, have we delivered a package to this person in that area?
Get 4 more Prime deliveries to unlock neighbors this month.
That's weird. It says that my neighbor Xi Jinping just got some seeds. I don't understand. Oh, they're requesting access to my cameras. Sure, I guess that's fine.
And we have talked a lot about these wide net searches that go on just because you happen to be in the vicinity of a place during a committed crime. And now that we're all connected all the time, they can easily know that you were at a place, and they can begin using all sorts of terrible searches against you, and you would never have a clue about it. A couple of states have done the minimum, I guess, to try and fix that.
2 new laws restrict police use of DNA search methods. Maryland and Montana have passed the nation's first laws limiting forensic genealogy, the method that found the Golden State Killer. So basically, it's like, we're just going to look at all the DNA that we can possibly find.
Now, I think I might have this backward. It's Maryland and Montana. One of them, you just have to have a warrant. So if they can convince a judge, they can still do this. But the other one had a lot of limitations on, like, you can only use like 23andMe and what's the other big one? Ones that have an existing relationship with law enforcement. And people get notified if all of a sudden you're just looking into their DNA.
Well, if PCR gets cheap enough, they're just going to install equipment in the sewer system and be like, yeah, we keep getting DNA hits for some of the, familial DNA, at the corner of Las Cruces and E Street or whatever. And it's like, okay, somebody in that area has the DNA that we're looking for.
So what we do then is we start a crowdsourcing initiative. At every major concert and venue or whatever that people would travel to, there's a bucket. A big bucket. And then you collect all that, and then you drive to various locations and you unload a little bit of the bucket.
What would be the name of the group that ensures that our personal freedom by taking random dumps all over the U.S.?
The Yellow Lanterns. Wait, taking dumps? I was just talking about urine. I guess we could do both. It would be much more disgusting.
The Brown Lanterns.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The Brown Lanterns. There's the title. And in Florida, Florida and Texas have taken a completely different path with the crisis that we're in right now. And a lot of people are championing that, but in the beginning, they might have fudged some numbers. And when I say might have, it seems overwhelmingly obvious that they did. And they made some other really bad mistakes in terms of freedom that maybe finally are getting unraveled a little bit.
Former Health Department employee Rebekah Jones, remember her? Granted official whistleblower status. Now, if you haven't been keeping up at home, this is the lady who was, reporting that she was asked to, fudge the numbers on the Florida dashboard, and she didn't want to, and eventually she was fired for quote unquote for insubordination. And then police raided her house and confiscated all of her computers and accidentally looked at privileged client attorney stuff, and they also filed a police report that was like, no, we totally didn't brandish firearms. And then video came out where they actually were brandishing firearms
At her children, no less.
to collect data.
Now-
and because she was accused of sending an email.
Is the timeline that she was not part of that program anymore,
Right.
when she blew the whistle?
Yes.
I wonder how much that entered into the Supreme Court ruling, because if they didn't add that caveat, this would have invalidated her arrest.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So this does not absolve her. She's not going to get out of her court case, but it does give her whistleblower status, which is supposed to protect her identity. But that cat's out of the bag, isn't it?
Yeah, we all know who she is.
She may be entitled to back pay. Like they may not have been permitted to fire her for the concerns that she raised. It's like, we're asking you to do this. If the insubordination is determined to have been that specifically, she might be getting quite a payday. And rightfully so. I really do think that Florida, even if she's the type of person to like obsessively be like, no, I'm not wrong, and not let anything go, I really do think that Florida has screwed up big time here.
So if you love the heat, if you can't wait to get out and enjoy that hot summer weather, I know a place you can go. Well, you'll experience a beach scene like you've never seen before. And fortunately, there is you can catch a ride in the next few years. You can go there. It's going to be fantastic.
Getting back might be a little tricky. Venus can't wait. NASA plans a blockbuster return to the hothouse neighbor. They're planning a mission to look to see if Venus once had a lot of water like Earth. It's a little closer to the sun, a little hotter, a little bit more CO2, as it turns out.
It's a little.
It's 2 missions. And they're going to send some robots. We're going to get a Venus robot, just like we got all those Mars robots. And it's got some funny names, Veritas, and what's the other one? Oh, Da Vinci Plus.
Oh.
Deep Atmosphere Venus Investigation of Noble Gases, Chemistry, and Imaging Plus. Because it's got to have a plus, right?
Yeah. The noble gases have an isotope somehow, some reason on Venus, which we got to figure out why.
I think I once watched an adult video that had a similar title. So we're going to do that. Get excited about that. They interviewed like a Venus guy, like a hardcore Venus astronomer, and he was almost in tears. He's like, I've waited so long.
Doesn't Venus pretty much burn up anything that gets into its atmosphere, though?
Yeah, it will have to be a robust robot for sure. Yeah. None of this Mars nonsense. None of these helicopters can't be doing that on Venus. Although if they do, that'd be very impressive. We've done this story twice before. Was it, or was it more than twice?
More than twice.
UK tried it.
Australia
tried it. Was there one more?
There was. I think it was one of the Indonesian countries.
And none of them even got past the planning phase.
Yeah.
When it came time for the rubber to meet the road here, there was no rubber. And there never will be, because this is ridiculous.
Where the rubber meets the road is an RFID implant with your citizen ID. And
seeing what Canada has done during the pandemic, I would not discount that. My God, they are insane.
Requiring proof of age to look at online porn raises privacy issues, the Senate committee hears. This is the National Post, which they're talking about Canada. Oh, Canada. Yeah, they're going even more off the deep end than we are. That's really saying something.
But it's the same story as the UK and Australia. They don't have a plan on how to do it, just to do it.
They are so desperate to be rid of the bathwater, they have not only ejected the baby, they have burned the house down.
So, good luck with that. They are the potential ways of doing it are just like the ones that have failed everywhere else. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, in Utah, we have this in Utah now.
Oh right, yeah. And when you talk about that microchip, we're certainly baby stepping toward that, aren't we?
We really are.
And the EU is definitely at the forefront. They love that kind of thing.
After joint debt, EU seeks more integration with digital ID card. So the EU envisions this universal digital ID card, which will be used as an ID or reference to a central online database that contains your identity, your credentials, your education, your health status, prescriptions that you are entitled to. So you can go to any corner Walgreens, whether you're in Amsterdam or New York or wherever, and just, get your stuff.
I imagine my vaccination status will be in there too, won't it?
Oh, that wasn't. Don't even worry about that. It's fine. It's just a little minor note. It's not even anything to worry about.
They do. There is like a little sentence right at the end there. It's like, this is not obligatory, but it's going to get to the point where businesses just don't take other kinds of payments. So what are you going to do?
You just get a
Is
little.
this any different than like your license here in like the U.S., for example?
It's not linked with everything else.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
Your license is it's somewhat, but also, I guess you have to have an ID no matter what.
Pretty much.
Yeah, like if you want to, if you want to get a drink, if you want to take a flight.
This is tied to payment, Krista. That's the big difference.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here, even though it's like linked to ID, it will exacerbate the issue that is prevalent. Is like, when you get pulled over for a speeding ticket, and you're in a really horrible car, it is a completely different experience than when you're in a really nice car.
Well, the U.S. and the EU like to share data. They like to share their citizens' data with each other. The governments, I mean, not, the citizens actually sharing information with each other. And the U.S. in the past has been known to maybe do a little spying. Just a little. And the EU is saying, I don't know if we trust you anymore.
Europe to U.S. Pass new laws if you want data transfer deal. The new rules are needed to limit the bulk collection of Europeans' data. I don't know about you, but my takeaway from this article was basically, it's okay if you collect all this data, but we want it locked so far away that we will never have another Snowden. Not, we want to control what we actually collect.
Well, the reason for this press release is pretty obvious when it's in context.
NSA spied on European politicians through Danish telecommunications hub. This is explosive. And the crazy thing from this is from 2015. So the U.S. spied on the Dutch. Not just any Dutch either. The politicians, the really important politicians. And also Angela Merkel. And this report from 2015, pretty damning. And the journalists got a hold of it. And so now that the journalists have gotten a hold of it, something from 7 years ago is finally like, oh, maybe we should do something about that. Oh, maybe we should, now that it's in the public eye. And so it's definitely a situation of, well, if you can't keep your house in order, we're not going to allow you to spy. Which is, again, different than you can keep spying if you can control the data. Now they're saying, why were you doing that in the first place?
And Snowden did tell us about this.
He did.
And he's been confirming it and giving more details, which actually fit the puzzle perfectly.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's much denial that can come out of this.
We just needed to make sure that Angela Merkel was not a secret lizard person.
Wonder if they got any data there.
It's perfectly innocent, I promise. No, it's totally fine.
And the EU, it seems like all of a sudden they're not playing around with spies. They're like, hey, we got to do something about this data. We're getting pushed around by these, it's like that picture where Batman and Iron Man are fighting, and the little Spider-Man's down there, and it's like
they're throwing money at each other.
So it's China on one side, the U.S. on the other, and they like to spy in Europe.
Huawei ex-director on trial in Poland on China spying charge. Yeah, this is gonna this trial is gonna yield all sorts of really interesting nuggets.
So he was arrested. Now this is when you say Huawei ex-director here, they're talking about the ex-director in Poland. This was Huawei Poland, and so he had a guy on the inside, and they were getting contracts, and they were giving them really nice prices and probably good service. But the secret was they wanted to know what was inside those networks. And now that they had their stuff in there, Poland claims at least that's why they did it in the first place.
Yeah.
So he's been locked up for 6 months. Or maybe it was more than that.
It's pretty brilliant, really. I wonder if Cisco gave him that idea in some other country working with Cisco to get Cisco gear everywhere. Surely that wouldn't happen. Surely they wouldn't backdoor the entire encryption algorithms for money.
This is May 27th. I couldn't remember. I remember we talked about something like this. I don't know if this is the exact
No,
story.
this is the new one.
Yeah, so it's not the first time they've done this, but what they do is they kind of honeypot these freedom fighters by pretending to be freedom fighters themselves. And if you can't trust that, then I don't know what you do.
Chinese hackers posing it as the UN Human Rights Council are attacking Uyghurs in the China region. Chinese-speaking hackers are targeting Uyghur Muslims with fake United Nations reports and phony support organizations, according to a new report. So this is the third instance of this, I think. Initially, it was the apps that they were using to communicate with one another.
I remember there was a phishing one too.
Yes.
But this is Word docs.
Yeah, and it's like we're here to support you, and it's like none of this is real.
I think the docs are like actually pro Uyghur stuff, and you can read them and you can feel good about it. But in the meantime, it just backdoored you.
Yeah.
So, could you ever be paranoid enough to be a Uyghur in China?
No.
I mean, there's no level of paranoia that's enough.
No.
'Cause I guarantee they're all over your stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the crypto markets, I think they were down again today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good time to be in the crypto market. And it seems like...
Oh, but AMC's up.
Yeah, one government after the other, they're just lining up and they're saying, oh, someone else did this first? Let me be the next domino.
Iran bans crypto mining after months of blackouts. Woo, GPU prices will return to normal soon. China's been doing this too, but this is a little bit lip service, and there's probably a little bit of reality to it as well, because they've got all the sanctions. This is one of a relatively easy way for normal-ish people to bypass the sanctions and get a GPU, can generate some income and some currency with it.
Well, they have a licensing system. This is only for people who are not licensed.
So, because of the tax revenue and everything else.
I guess.
But also, like power usage and crap like that. But also their infrastructure has problems anyway. So, I mean, this is probably not as much of a problem as they make it out to be.
I bet there's a couple of ASICs in the Revolutionary Guard building still.
Yeah.
And I bet those are perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe you get some used equipment. We'll see. And this one is kind of similar to the subscription thing. When it comes to the App Store, you have to worry about those advertising IDs and everything else. Now, Apple, obviously, took their big step. And Android was like, well, I guess we have to, right? I mean, what choice do we have? We can't be seen as the ones that still spy.
Google is making it harder for Android apps to track you once you've opted out. Advertising IDs will be disabled for users who opt out of tracking.
You can't do it yet. At the time of you watching this, you might be able to.
Yeah, but there's going to be other ways to track you that don't involve your advertising ID.
As we've seen, there are so many ways, so many metrics where they can build an ID for you. It's disgusting, really. But you might as well turn that off.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt. Oh, my God.
Oh no!
Has your auto warranty done something?
Restricted?
I bet it is.
That's your auto warranty.
But make sure mine's on silent as well.
This one was crazy, and when I saw the headline, I was like, are they just doing this to try? And it's like, oh, you're too stupid to do this. Let us do it for you. And I was like, that would be a little bit insulting. It's exactly what it is. They're telling you, you cannot be trusted to do this on your own. Just shut up and we'll do it.
Norton 360 antivirus now lets you mine Ethereum cryptocurrency. Woo! Just in time to switch to proof of stake from proof of work.
Now, they weren't sure at Bleeping Computer whether this was a pool or whether you were literally just on your own here. They assumed it was a pool, and that would help you get more out of this. But yeah, your latest Norton, you can just go in here to this UI, turn it on.
You got $12. I'm pretty sure that the proliferation of things like this is going to lead toward a browser plugin for all the paywall sites and stuff like that. If it was, I could just give them, fractions of a cryptocurrency as I browse, and I had to pay to do that, I would totally do that.
Yeah, but they would never. That's too small an amount for them.
Is it?
Yeah. They want way more than that. Most people wouldn't opt into that.
If I left my computer on mining all the time, would it outpace the rate at which I browse?
If everybody did that, how would that affect the grid?
Well, I mean, for proof of work, it'd probably be okay, but proof of stake, not so much.
Yeah, that's the adoption level. Even at this mania, the adoption level for crypto is vanishingly low still.
Yeah.
So, I think people say we always get comments. I think the Brave browser does something like that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And Firefox, here's something that I guess it seems it would probably be positive for most people, but I find it disgusting.
I remember reading years ago a really long thread on the ethics of this, because both Chrome and Internet Explorer preload into memory as soon as you boot. So when you launch Chrome, it's just unhiding it basically. And Firefox was like, yeah, we need to do that too, because people don't want to wait on Firefox to launch. And there was this big, it's like, what are the ethics of that? Or is that an okay thing to do? And for normie computer users, it was like, yeah, they don't care. But a lot of the hardcore, open source, and is it ethical to do that? We're like, no, we are not doing that.
Also, what if you're doing something with your internet connection, like streaming or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm dropping frames. What's happening? And you don't know because this nonsense.
Firefox now auto updates on Windows even when not running. Well, to be fair, I mean, Windows will do that to your stream a lot more consistently, as will Chrome.
But everyone hates it. It's not something to emulate.
I'm just saying.
They do it, so it's okay.
But it is a misnomer when they say not running, because obviously something is running. Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you can toggle metered connections on. Sometime for giggles, toggle your not metered connection on to be metered, and then enjoy that's weird, my connection doesn't mysteriously get slow anymore.
Now this looks to me like the work of Hee Sung.
It is.
Because we know that he sung, he'll cut some corners. He'll do things just because they work and not think about the ramifications that come later. That's certainly what has happened here.
Huawei USB LTE dongles are vulnerable to privilege escalation attacks. Uh-oh.
So one of the files runs as 777, and if you were to replace it, whatever you replace it with will run with full permissions. Yikes.
Now, was that done on purpose or because they were terrible programmers?
That was heat song, for sure. And the only thing that has to happen for this to trigger is that LTE has to wake up and try to go somewhere.
That would be terribly convenient for a nation state to exploit, though. Terribly convenient.
A nation state that funds Huawei?
A nation state that has 5G equipment to which this connects.
That they're currently installing in Africa and India?
Uh-oh.
Now, we've seen this headline before. Google did it. Pretty much everybody, I think, is doing it.
Yeah.
It's not anything new.
Forbes reports that this exclusive, Alibaba's huge browser business is harvesting the private web activity of millions of Android and iPhone users.
So anytime you use the Alibaba browser, what's the name of it? UC browser, it will hit a server in China every time with your IP address and what site you visit.
That sounds like Google Analytics.
Yeah, except no one explicitly set it up to do that, except for them. So if you don't like that idea, is that popular in the U.S. or anywhere else other than China?
It is surprisingly popular. It's popped up a lot in analytics on sites that I would not expect.
So watch out for that. And if you're thinking, well, what do I care? They don't know who I am. Are you sure?
Listen, they can run arbitrary commands in your 5G modem. Are you really sure about that?
Hey, remember SolarWinds? Oh, that was so many crises ago. But we're still learning about it. They're still kind of
It's still
unpacking
smoldering.
it. Yeah, and they're trying to figure out what exactly happened. And of course, the more layers you peel back, the worse it gets.
Security Week reports that poison installers have been found in SolarWinds Hackers Toolkit. And so what this is these are installers that are not, it's not correct to say that they're infected with malware, but defects have been introduced into the installer so that when the installer installs the thing, there are holes that are left, like that 777 file. Like something was very changed in a very subtle way to sort of leave a way in, potentially, that was not there originally. So if you've got one of these installers and you install it, that may be a vector for something worse to happen to you later that otherwise you would not be vulnerable to.
Yikes. And our final story is another ransomware attack. I did leave it till the end, though, because this one affects us probably more directly than the others if you were one of these people, and it would probably make people more angry than the others. Although I got to think that this is traditional TV and radio, so mostly old people getting angry at this.
Live streams go down across Cox radio and TV stations in apparent ransomware attack. So Cox Media Group was like, oops, we got ransomware. An employee clicked on something. They were trying to run pirated software.
And you didn't have to be a Cox subscriber because, they're media as well as ISP and TV and stuff. So they actually were sending streams to other networks and other kinds of services. All of that went down. Lost everything.
Oops.
There was a tweet here, and it was a local news station. Oh, yeah, take a look. The local news station had not missed an episode in something like a decade. And they had to because of this. Oh, the first time in a bunch of decades, WSB TV is unable to be on the air.
There's probably some old person who was furious about that too, and like their grandkid was there trying to explain what was going on.
They were just turning over tables.
They should have done something creative, like had an old-timey radio hour, or had somebody like, an announcer describing memes or something.
I think they probably have an agreement not to broadcast their own stuff, right? It's got to be Cox's stuff.
Is it like the Sinclair broadcasting thing where all of the announcers said the same thing with the same intonation?
Probably, yeah.
They said they own like 57 TV stations and radio stations.
And they just changed that law, remember?
That's horrifying.
You can buy more now.
Yeah.
Well, how far did you get on that brew?
About halfway.
What do you think?
Final
verdict.
It definitely quenches the thirst.
Has it taken the existential dread away a little bit?
It is, yeah, a bit.
I think you're not pounding it hard enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tomorrow is business and I don't remember, but it's exciting.
Long section, right? Tomorrow's a long one.
It's a long Wednesday.
Yeah.
Get hyped for it.
Right. Bye. June 9th. Hello, everybody. Today's June 9th, and today we're doing business and social media. This is going to be a very long section, so get a snack now. This is your warning.
Woo! This week, Computex is over. That was last week. So many things announced last week. It was pretty crazy.
And the first we'll talk about in the hardware news section are some new gaming laptops that are being offered. Both of the big companies have given us new mobile processors to be excited about.
AMD Radeon RX 6800M rips benchmarks in a powerful all-AMD Asus gaming laptop. Woo! 6800 mobile? What? It's benchmarking pretty darn good. They get a software update as well. Fidelity effects, super resolution.
Don't know about availability.
Yeah. It's probably going to be mining Ethereum.
If you can't find one of those, maybe you can find one of these because Intel has their own offering.
Intel's latest 11th gen processor brings 5 GHz speeds to thin and light laptops, along with a new 5G modem for laptops. So the new 5G modem is, they partnered with somebody else, and it's a MediaTek Silicon. I really didn't think it was anything to write home about. But you know what's weird? In Intel's presentation, they didn't say anything about their new NUCs, which have full-size GPU slots, which are actually pretty cool. But they didn't say anything about that in the keynote. Wow.
The big feature that they're touting here seems to be the boost. It can boost up to 3 gigahertz.
5 gigahertz.
But that's on top of the...
on top of the base clock. Yeah.
So yeah, it gets over 5 in some cases.
It's over 9,000.
Not for long. And it is a laptop, so... Yeah.
Fleeting moments.
But that's not what you all want, right? What you all want is this. What everybody wants are these.
Graphics cards.
And we will not get them. It hurts to look at.
Nobody really wanted this, actually, but it's fine. The monstrous GeForce RTX 3080 Ti is NVIDIA's new gaming flagship, which no one would want to buy this if they could buy the 3080 non-Ti at its roughly $700 supposed to be street price.
So this is basically the 3090...
$800
with some of the memory removed, but everything else is still the base of that, so it can still be as fast.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they are flooding the warehouses as we speak. There's going to be way too many of them.
Best Buy had a few, and there were people waiting overnight to get them, and a few people did.
Were they selling them for retail?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that might be worth it. The hot new crypto is Chia. I have not gotten into that, but it's totally different. They have changed the game with Chia because now we are actually proving how much we can store, not how much we can process. And how is that going to change the world? Well, Seagate isn't sure, but they're getting ready for it.
Seagate exploring a possible new line of crypto-specific hard drives. Seagate could be set to foray into the crypto space. Sabrent already has crypto-specific SSDs, specifically for Chia, which is exciting. This article didn't mention that.
Great. Another thing that can be sold out because of cryptocurrency. That's exactly what we need.
The thing with Chia is that it's pretty quick to know if you have the block somewhere in your storage array, and it will wait on you for up to 30 seconds to fetch a value from that. So your hard drives could be off and asleep and in a low power mode, and they could spin up and then fetch the block of data and then spin down. The thing that it uses the SSD for is the initial generation. So once it's generated and stored on the hard drive, you don't even really need the SSD anymore.
Just make a giant RAM disk.
Yeah.
Keep it all on that.
Yeah, I was not encouraged when I filled an 8 terabyte hard drive and it was like estimated time to first coin 57 years, and I was like,
those aren't even worth that much.
Yeah.
They always correct our pronunciation of this. Xiaomi, I think is what
Xiaomi.
We usually use more of a Z, and we are corrected for that, so I think it's Xiaomi. Anyway, they have an exciting new wireless charging technology.
Xiaomi shows off a phone that can charge to 100% in 8 minutes. It totally will not catch on fire, we promise.
I think people will be a little bit skeptical of a Chinese product with that much power. But that's 50% in 3 minutes. I mean, you could get out the door and have enough to go through the rest of your day.
Yeah.
If you're really lazy about charging your phone, this should excite you.
It can also do wireless charging, and I think it was over 100 watts wireless charging as well. So that's pretty incredible.
Yes, very impressive. And Huawei have been busy. If you'll recall, they were unceremoniously tossed out of the Android ecosystem. They were not allowed to connect to the App Store or do anything with it anymore because they're probably in league with the Chinese government. And so what did they do? They said, all right, we're doing our own. And that was how long ago? About a year? Year and a half?
Almost 2.
Yeah. It's taken them this long, but finally, we get to see it.
Huawei's Harmony OS arrives with an iPad-inspired tablet UI and an apparent Android base. So 9 to 5 Google has sort of figured out, it's like, hey, from the screenshots and the interface here, this looks like Android has just been rethemed to look like an iPhone.
Christy, what do you think about these screenshots?
They look fine.
They are definitely reminiscent of Android.
I
Sure.
don't see anything here that I'm like, wow, that's totally groundbreaking. Like, this looks exactly fine.
The thing is, like, or most user interface design is, and I think Krista, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that like designers can design stuff that like looks good in a screenshot like this, but the secret for phones is like the interactive part of it and like how it behaves and like when you move and click and drag.
Yeah, like how it animates and stuff, and like how will it react if you have really, really long text and that kind of thing.
Yeah, nobody ever plans for that because it's always a disaster whenever we have to deal with that. Because it's like, it's
or other languages, if they have really long words.
Or even things like Adobe XD, where the color space isn't even things people use on the web because Adobe is an awful, awful company.
Now, they say that this is not a mobile operating system. This is an everything operating system. They say that you can use this, from your desktop to your toaster, and it will be great for all those things. And you can move app sessions between any of those devices seamlessly.
Oh, that's funny. That's something I've been waiting on forever. And they won't do it because they're stupid.
Well, just give up your data to the Communist Party and you can have that.
Easy.
So we'll see if people are excited about that. Now, as you can see, that little slider that I did there while Krista was talking, the Google people are maybe pointing out a little borrowing.
Just a little.
These are the same picture. They're the same.
The icons were smaller.
That was the other thing I was going to comment on, Krista, too, is like, have you noticed that like as the screens get bigger and higher resolution, the spacing between stuff gets to be more, and it's like, again, Krista, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems pretty lazy of designers to do that to make it look quote unquote cleaner, and I really like Huawei making everything smaller so that it's more useful.
I actually have the exact opposite opinion. Like you have to have things that are minimum 40 pixels for your finger to be able to touch it easily. Well, and when you start putting things real close together, it gets harder for your finger to hit it.
That's what the Huawei thing looks like. It looks like it's that 40 pixel minimum, but like some of the stuff on the Google side looks like Fisher Price because it's like 200 pixels tall.
Spotify just shrank everything in their desktop UI, and on the Surface Touch, and I'm not running in tablet mode, I'm just in regular mode. That's infuriating.
I personally, I mean, it doesn't need to be massive, but I prefer it to be larger. Generally, also because I'm blind, I can't see. So,
I know that.
So larger fonts are always better for me. But
well, we got a new supercomputer, and it seems like every time we get a new supercomputer, it has to be the best. It's like Trump is building all the supercomputers. it's the best supercomputer.
Huge.
Yeah, it is pretty huge, and it's got a lot of GPUs. Boy, I wish I had some of these GPUs.
Researchers switch on the world's fastest AI supercomputer. It has 6,000 NVIDIA A100 GPUs and delivers 4 exaflops of mixed precision performance to help the NERSC Advanced Science Data Center.
Perlmutter. What a name.
Perlmutter.
It's from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise.
So they're going to use it for scientific medical research type of thing and to map the universe. That'd be nice. We need a map for that.
I want to know what happened with that AI that could calculate the distance and location of stuff in space faster than the actual algorithm to do it. Because it discovered something, and we need to figure out what it discovered because it was good.
It might be bad.
Yeah,
Could be the filter. They might have discovered the filter. Well, the M1 iPads are out there, and people are excited about those. There are 2 configuration options when it comes to RAM. You can get the 8 gig or the 16 gig. 16 gig is very expensive, but developers have begun looking at this, and they have some bad news about that 16 gigs of memory.
Apple reportedly limited the maximum amount of RAM that an app can use to 5 gigabytes in the iPad OS, even with the 16 gig M1 iPad Pro. So you can have multiple 5 gig apps, but each app can only use up to 5 gigs. And they cited, Krista, one of your programs.
Yeah, Procreate was big in exposing this. Because they needed that, and they said that when they tried to allocate more than that, they simply crashed.
Yeah, Procreate, it will limit how many layers you can work on after a certain amount. And if you get anywhere kind of close to that limit for your document, it will dramatically slow down and sometimes crash.
But you could double that limit if Apple would just let you. Do you think
they just don't care?
Do they not want to share because the experience might worsen for the actual rest of the iPad?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
I don't have the new one, but I've noticed that on old versions of Procreate as well.
Over at Google didn't have any hot releases this week to talk about. They have a bad headline. Yeah. And it's similar to a lot of their previous bad headlines because they tend to put people in power who become controversial. And I don't know how they're going to fix
without
this.
doing their homework.
Yeah, this one, it sucks that we're in a world where you have to go back and comb through everybody's history. But I think you kind of do.
Google diversity head removed over anti-Semitic blog post. And it was from several years ago.
2007, but the quote is kind of...
I read the whole context, too, because I read it and I was like, that's got to be out of context. And I read it, and it is kind of out of context, but still way out of line.
But the narrative matches that now.
Yeah.
Like, the narrative is very pro-Palestine. And so this guy said something about... well, here we go. Do we want to read this? Probably not.
No, I don't think we do.
If I were a minority being referenced here that I'm not going to say, I would be concerned about my insatiable appetite for war and killing in defense of myself. So this goes back to, like, wouldn't this guy, as an American, be just as responsible for everything George Bush did if a random Israeli was responsible for what Netanyahu did? I mean, that's the wrong fight to fight right here.
Yeah.
So,
well, the other thing I thought was strange from this article, he mentions he emails all his Jewish staff to tell them, like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, did that come up? Like, do they have, like, a log of that somewhere? Like, these are all our Jewish staff members?
He had to use the Facebook ad things.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's
why,
not a good look either. Like, that you have a catalog of all your Jewish employees.
Why do you have a list?
Yeah.
That did not end badly the last time there was a list.
But I will say, there is a weird situation where you're not allowed to talk about the housing developments and stuff like that.
Yeah, or the evolution of land area over time since the 1950s.
Yeah. So you have to know better than to do this. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that you have to be aware of your surroundings. Like, if you were in a room full of lions, you would behave differently. And they don't care about your rights. And the tech companies are exactly like those lions.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind when you're doing possibly racist tweets.
I saw a really good hypothetical on Twitter also, which was if the American Revolution were happening now, would the big tech companies be on the side of America or the British?
British, because the British have more money.
Yeah, but
until the French got involved, and then they'd be pro,
I was just gonna say they'd probably be trying to make backdoor deals with the Dutch.
Yeah,
like they would just to play a wild card there.
Yeah. And so, like, if you follow that all to the conclusion, it seems like the money in politics has to be eliminated, and we have to go back to, like, what is in the people's best interest.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever going to happen, unfortunately.
You could sooner put the genie back in the bottle.
What you're talking about is fertilizing the tree of liberty. I don't want to live through that. Do you?
I don't know.
No, I'm happy where I'm at. That's the sad thing about it.
That's how that's what they're counting on. But yeah.
Yeah, and
They're right.
You know,
if you find that stressful, Krista, do you find that stressful?
Yes.
And how do you deal with that?
I take walks out in my yard, and now I've started canning.
Is that it?
is that what they call it now?
No.
Is that a new way to do this? Well, if you're an Amazon worker, there's a new option for you to push out the dread and forget the darkness.
Krista, headline.
Amazon will stop testing job seekers for marijuana and now backs legalizing weed.
Woo!
How many people have they tested that's like almost all our warehouse workers are positive for this? We can't get rid of them, though.
I have a feeling that is absolutely the catalyst here.
Yes.
They are desperately, because we have a huge labor shortage right now, and they can't staff without it. I know that some local Eastern Kentucky grocery stores, they did this for meth. For meth.
Oh.
Yeah. Just a little. Just on the weekends.
Well, I was going to say, in my mind at least, having known users of both, I feel like someone who's on pot can, at least get themselves together to go to a job. I don't know if you can say that about someone on meth.
Oh, what are you talking about? A meth user will empty one of those trucks by themselves in like 20 minutes. It's what happens after that's bad.
Yeah, well, so, if you're passed out for hours, are you gonna go to your job though?
Probably not eventually. But Amazon is getting behind the whole legalization thing, and they're playing that whole minority card. And they're getting on the bandwagon. That's all that is. And they're trying to make sure they have a bunch of workers.
Yeah.
Oh, and anything that has to do with driving, you still can't do that, which is a good idea.
I'm still waiting for Amazon to purchase Corrections Corporation of America, and then we can get our first jailhouse Amazon warehouse.
That already exists.
I'm sure that already works.
It's called Unicore.
Yeah.
Look up Unicore. Read about Unicore. Whew. That is modern slavery. Krista, we want to remove this one because we already did it in the last episode.
Oh, no. You removed it completely?
Removed it entirely.
Oh, okay. I thought you said moved.
Because we talked about the industrial athletes already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Amazon, like most companies, if you buy a car today, you will have to agree to this, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
Really makes me angry. But if you say no, they're just like, all right, we'll see you later. And a lot of companies have gotten on board with this. One amazing lawyer figured it out and beat them at their own game, and now they have to walk this back. This is a beautiful story.
Amazon faced 75,000 arbitration demands. Now it says, all right, you know what? We're not going to participate in the arbitration thing. Just go ahead and sue us.
So the rule with arbitration is you can't sue them. You have to go to this little fake kangaroo court thing that they almost exclusively control. But the catch is they have to pay for your filings. So this guy filed 75,000 different demands. Now, what did it say? It cost them like $2,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, okay, you know what? Let's go to court. We're not doing that anymore. Genius. This is a story that we've certainly seen before, and it's interesting because we've seen several stories where the U.S. was like, all right, we've taken care of this. We've fixed the tax code. We don't have to worry about this anymore. And yet, year after year,
Microsoft's Irish subsidiary paid zero corporation tax on $220 billion in profit. Microsoft Round Island 1 is a tax resident in Bermuda with no employees except directors. So what they kept going back to in this was like, okay, you paid dividends to investors, but the company reported no profit. But you paid dividends to investors. What's the definition of a dividend again?
Yeah, that's what's left over.
So can you explain us? And they were like, Bermuda. The Bermuda Triangle. We don't know.
And Ireland.
In Ireland.
You got to have Ireland in there. Now, this is mostly revenue coming from all the international product keys that they're selling. A lot of money.
$220 billion. $250 billion, if you prefer.
When you scroll through this article, they have a picture just to really rub it in of Bill Gates' 66,000 square foot main home, valued at $130 million.
Our version of The Guardian has mysteriously crashed, so.
Oh.
I wonder if
there was also a PDF of the lawsuit in there.
I wonder if there's been a time in Bill Gates' life when he walked into a room that he hadn't been in years, and it's like, oh, there was a roof leak in here that I hadn't noticed. And It's gotten very bad.
Nah, there's a team.
They sweep the house.
That takes care of
Yeah,
it.
he's like a dragon. He knows every part of his horde. And if someone comes in there and just takes like a speck of dust off of like a statue, he knows. It's like Smaug.
Somebody comes in and picks up like a priceless teacup, and he just sits bolt upright in bed. Release the robots.
I have to go. I was gonna say Melinda, like he was yelling Melinda, but she's not there anymore.
He slams on the emergency button, like breaks the glass and hits the button.
And all the shutters come down.
And a copy of Mark Zuckerberg just bursts out of the closet, starts attacking things.
We should do a web comic.
The original model. Unleash the original model.
We'll put its homicidal tendencies toward good use.
Well, the election debate rages on. We don't hear as much about it, but it's still happening in, Arizona and one other state.
They finished one of the audits and didn't find anything super irregular.
So, but there's still constantly, like, I see headlines all the time of them like, no, we can't allow them to do this. And then it's like, you must allow us. And it's just...
There have been a few things that came out of the audit, though, that was like, that would definitely raise an eyebrow at the time, but in retrospect is like, okay, that probably wasn't anything horrible. But at the same time, it's like, but you lied about it then. Why did you lie about it then? That doesn't, like, it doesn't rise to the level of things you would lie about if this was some grand conspiracy, but you did.
The answer is they lie about everything.
Yeah.
And they were keeping things open in case they had to cheat. If they didn't cheat, I'm sure. But you have to do something about it, right? Because 2022 is coming up. It's coming on us fast. And we have to try to solve this because there's going to be a midterm election. And it's going to be really important because
this Bloomberg article did not ask the right questions.
Yeah, it's the balance of power in like the Senate and stuff and the governors. It's very important. We need to fix this before then. We don't have much time. What do we do? I don't think the answer is to hand the reins over to Microsoft. That seems wrong to me.
Microsoft and Hart partnered to give voters a chance to track their vote. Wait a minute. What?
They say it's completely anonymous, but what do we know about data?
What do we know about anonymous data?
Doesn't stay that way for long. So you're going to get a QR code that's printed after you vote, and then you're going to go to your house and you're going to wait, and when you scan that QR code, it's going to tell you where your vote is in the counting pipeline.
And before that system gets ransomware.
Or Huawei.
I mean,
Yeah.
that seems like if it's just tracking your vote and not what it is, it seems like
just if it's been counted or not.
Yeah. It seems like it would be easy to change what it is at
And
the
not
start.
solve the problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know those machines have that capacity.
Yeah, I mean, even just a simple touchscreen miscalibration, which is, I think, almost completely innocent malfunction. It's like the touchscreen is miscalibrated. We can fix that. Maybe somebody touches something and doesn't notice that the screen reacts to the wrong thing. They voted some way that they didn't intend to, and
But you could also solve that by adding buttons. Like we should do in cars.
like it had been since the dawn of time until recently.
Well, we have a date for an exciting new event. I'm sure that this will be almost completely bug-free when it launches.
We should do a special with Krista, Level 1 special on like the new Windows design.
Krista, we're doing it. Mark your calendar.
24-hour live stream.
You think it'll take that long?
Microsoft to unveil new version of Windows on June 24. 24 hours on the 24th. No.
We do not
Yeah.
know that much about it. They're not calling it Windows 10. It's going to be something new. And we've seen a couple of leaked previews of what it might look like. But so far, they've done a pretty good job keeping it hushed.
If we follow the idiocracy trend, eventually it's going to be something like Windows Happy.
Or just an emoji.
Yeah.
It's the Windows, but it's twisted into a smile.
The operating system formerly known as Windows.
When you get an error message, it's just like the turd emoji. No actual error message. It's just like, oh, okay, turd emoji.
It is basically that way already with the frowny face.
And one thing we know about Bill Gates is he probably would have been a lot better off not meddling in the medical industry. It definitely backfired on him.
He might still be up one wife.
But I don't think he wanted to be. But he also might be up $1 billion that he's now lost. But that's not the only one he's in. He's in a lot of industries. He throws that money around and he wields a lot of power.
Bill Gates' next generation nuclear reactor to be built in Wyoming. His company's participating in it. Actually, Warren Buffett is going to be the one who owns it. It's a micro reactor that uses a more advanced nuclear fuel, but produces way less waste. And so it should be a lot more difficult to weaponize the nuclear waste. And so it might be good for a clean energy future, maybe, possibly.
This is the molten salt style of reactor where it stores some of that energy by just melting salt, keeping it warm. It's like on your crock pot, the keep warm setting, except it's really
exactly the same.
It'll take a while to build that. We will not see power out of it. And also, this is a proof of concept version, so it's not going to be a massive power output. This is just like, prove it works. That's going to cost $1 billion.
I was somewhere once that had an underground flywheel as a backup power source, and I was like, that is ridiculous. There's no way that is it could possibly be a viable power source. Just a big, heavy concrete wheel underground. There's no way. And it turns out that a flywheel or something like that can store an obscene amount of energy, and it will just run and run and run and run.
What about the wear and tear, though?
Like, it's just like if you do it right, there's hardly any wear at all because it's in like an argon gas kind of thing. So it just spins because there's no load on it most of the time. It just spins and spins and spins.
I doubt that could be scaled up to municipal power.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's like molten salt in that it stores an obscene amount of energy. You don't realize it, and then it's like, wow, this will just run forever and ever and ever.
I don't know. I think if I was standing next to a flywheel and standing next to molten salt, I would feel much stronger about the energy coming from the molten salt.
I don't know.
Well, here's a blast from the past, and I think we might have predicted, and we could still be right, but we're probably wrong in predicting that this would never actually come to pass.
Yeah.
Because they have set a date, and they've also set some pricing.
Atari VCS console finally launches on June 15th with an eye-popping price tag. Seems like it's a one-of-a-kind price tag.
So this is basically just an all-in-one computer with their version of some probably half-assed operating system and what they call a vault, which is either a partition or a completely separate ROM chip that has all the ROMs on it. So your like classic Atari games are separate from all the operating system and stuff. They say that you can install Linux if you want, because it is basically just a little computer. For how much?
Thousands of dollars.
$400.
What? I thought it was $1,400.
No.
That would be truly crazy.
The 400's still pretty high.
Yeah, they point out that that's the price for a PlayStation 5.
Oh, okay.
So
The
you're
new
getting
Xbox is $299.
and this thing, I mean, in terms of horsepower, is not much. It's that AMD
It's a small
R
chip,
something.
Zen 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it can run those Atari ROMs, but so can a Raspberry Pi.
R5, R1600G. So first gen Zen. That's got to be like the industrial waste at this point. Sorry.
Certainly not worth $400.
No.
The comments disagree on this article. They're all like, dude, it's totally worth it. I've already pre-ordered one. There's a market for everything, I guess.
They hired those people. Atari hired those people.
I don't know if you could reuse the controllers on other stuff, although the stick Atari controller is not particularly comfortable.
I think you only get the stick with the special edition. It's like the throwback edition. Normally you would get that little
I mean, half the game was how horrible the controller was.
you get this thing. Yeah, that was a terrible idea for a controller. One button. That worked for Pitfall. Here's maybe a little bit of good news, although it's somewhat removed from the chips that we want, I guess, but a light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps.
GM lifts forecast as chip shortages ease and the stock hits a record high. So GM is saying, hey, production is improving. We're getting more vehicles out the door. We figured out how to make vehicles without chips again.
I guess that's good. I don't know.
We'll see.
Maybe that will lighten the load on some of the other stuff, but I think They were like almost last in line because they had really cheap chips that they wanted.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you know what? We'll make way more money ignoring you.
Yeah.
We've talked about this fellow before, and this court case has been going on for quite some time. I hate to see this, but you have to admit he was pretty blatant in what he did. It's hard to defend him.
ROM site owner made $30,000 a year and now owes Nintendo $2.1 million. The judge did take it pretty easy on him. The judge didn't really make him pay a lot for the box art and stuff like that because Nintendo was trying to take him to task for $35,000 per violation for the box art. The judge was not having it. The judge did charge, I guess, based on wanting him to not do anything like this in the future. Although he's not specifically enjoined from doing anything like this in the future, he just has to pay for the ROMs that people downloaded from the site, basically.
They'll never pay. He'll never pay, and they don't expect him to. This case creates a really easy way to do this again if they need to.
Yeah.
So, and this is not just old ROMs. This guy was putting Switch ROMs up too. I think that's what pushed them over the edge.
Yeah.
Like, you want to do Mario Brothers, then okay, but once you go into the Breath of the Wild,
I think Nintendo was still shutting them down for everything, not just even the old stuff.
Yeah, but not trying to destroy them in court like this.
Mm.
Although, I mean, ultimately they probably would have.
Yeah.
When it comes to trying to stay anonymous on the internet, if you've watched this program forever, you might have concluded that it's nearly impossible. And that's sadly kind of true. But one of the tools that still kind of worked, we did learn about those exit nodes that were fingerprinting you and stealing your cryptocurrency. So that's something to watch out for. But Tor did a pretty good job of anonymity. And this proves that they were doing a really good job with it because somebody got a phone call.
PayPal shuts down a longtime Tor supporter with no recourse. So this was a guy who was using his PayPal account to pay for nodes that were used as part of the Tor network. And the hosting providers and stuff like that had no problem with it. And the guy hasn't had any complaints from PayPal. The EFF investigated. And PayPal just said, we don't want to do business with you anymore. So despite no complaints, and they won't give him a reason, and the only thing the EFF can conclude is, this has something to do with this guy supporting cryptocurrency, or supporting Tor and the stuff that goes, Tor projects that end up giving support to the network, I guess is how you would say that. And PayPal does not want to participate in that.
So what PayPal does, instead of contact him and say, hey, you need to leave our service, they locked his account. So he cannot escalate this. He cannot get a human being on the phone. All of his money that was still in the account is locked for 180 days to cover refunds that might come through, even though he's not a seller of anything. And at the end of that 180 days, he can get his money and then he's done. He's never going to use PayPal again.
It's horrifying.
Yeah. Imagine if you were a business getting locked out of your funds for 180 days.
What's crazy is there are certain rules that PayPal has to obey handling money, but they have to obey less rules than a bank. They have to obey less rules than like Western Union, the money transfer service. They have to obey less rules. They somehow evade. They're in the superposition of not handling money and handling money, so that they have the least amount of rules that they have to follow, and they'll behave really egregiously as a result.
And they're not going to talk to him. He's just done.
Even with the EFF involved, they were just like, no, we're done.
He's canceled. And when it comes to money, of course, the smart thing to do with your money is to find companies that have no value and no future value and invest as heavily as you can into them, because that's how we're doing it these days.
AMC is giving free popcorn away to meme stonk investors. Brr. It's pretty funny.
How do they know? Do you have to bring something in?
Yeah, show them your Fidelity account or whatever.
So they point out that GameStop played this the opposite way. GameStop said nothing ever about the meme stocks. They just sat back and enjoyed the ride and did what they could. And AMC is saying, no, we're getting on top of this. Now, a lot of people are saying this could be maybe a little securities fraud. Are we giving them something for investing?
It's popcorn. I mean, I do think that GameStop handled this way better, because not only has GameStop not said anything, they're actually like trying to figure out how they can pivot into something that like modern gamers care about. Like maybe we could sell GPUs, or maybe we could do whatever. And they
It's a great time to get into that market.
Yeah, they bought ThinkGeek. So ThinkGeek that's been a while ago. So they might be able to become like the hot topic of gamer stuff instead of emo stuff.
They got to get into digital.
Yeah.
So that's the only way that you're going to survive in the gaming world.
Yeah. So they're versus the AMC. The AMC guy sold 11 million shares of their company without telling anybody, which is like, and then he's done other really just kind of not smart things. I feel like they need to put somebody in charge of AMC that can maybe not.
But they canceled something like $600 million in debt.
Yeah.
They erased a huge part of the pandemic with the meme stocks. So
Yeah.
like from a fiduciary duty to the company standpoint, he's doing exactly what he should be doing. Not for the investor.
Not for the investor.
Somebody's going to get caught holding that bag.
Yeah.
It's going to be a heavy bag.
The short people, I think, lost $5 billion just yesterday alone.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's standing in front of a steamroller, or picking up pennies in front of a steamroller is what they call that. You deserve what you got there. And a website that, if you work in this field, you might be ashamed of it, but you're gonna use it.
Are we gonna work?
You're there.
Are we gonna work on the replacement site next week? Because we could build a replacement site. Because it's gonna end badly.
I don't know. Are they smart enough to leave it alone?
No, they want to make their 1.8 billion back.
The previous owner was Chinese, so I guess this is good from like a security standpoint, maybe.
The Wall Street Journal reports that Stack Overflow has been sold to tech giant Prosus for 1.8 billion. Now, the original owner was Joel Spolsky, I think, or one of the owners, because the Fogbugs guy, he's got some pretty good books. And then I guess it ended up with a Chinese company, and now it's going to Prosus. I don't know.
We'll see how they change it. Don't make me register.
I just want to read the answers. I want to copy the code and then just paste it, see if it works, tweak it, and then never come back.
Don't make me write a competing site. That would be bad.
Just to do this.
Uber and Lyft are still in this bitter battle to, are they workers? Are they not workers? They don't want them to be.
I like this.
And a lot of people have really maligned them. They say they charge too much. The drivers don't get enough. The drivers don't get treated correctly. How do you fix it? And yes, I agree. This is the only way.
Yes.
But we must pray that whoever started this has the morals to not fall into that trap when it comes there, because there's going to be a fork in the road.
Yep.
We'll see.
New York Times reports a worker-owned cooperative tries to compete with Uber and Lyft. About 2,500 drivers in New York are organizing to create what they say is a better deal for drivers than what the ride-hailing giants offer. Listen, angel investors and those of you in the audience that are independently wealthy as a result of meme stocks or whatever, this is what we need. Like, we need projects like this for the betterment of the future of mankind.
But if you get involved in this, remember what Uber did. Remember Uber when
Uber is still doing
when they used that the gray, what do they call it? Gray something?
It wasn't gray key. It was like to track people
or to fake them out.
Yeah.
Like they would create a fake lift and just see who showed up and be like, all right, let's write that down. And they were trying to like track what their drivers are doing versus their own drivers. So the underhanded stuff will start happening to you if you play this game.
Oh crap! There was something else that was really funny. Oh yeah. It's kind of a game of hot potato because originally investors invested a bunch of money in Lyft, or Uber, and then Uber went public, and now the public's holding that bag, and the investors got their money back. But there's no, as Cory Doctorow says, there's no pony under that mountain of crap. So somebody's going to get caught holding that, like the meme stocks.
But there's a very good chance that Uber and Lyft themselves would give you a huge chunk of money.
Yeah,
just to buy this up.
Yeah.
So you could sell out that way. I don't know if that would be.
We must not.
Good or bad. I don't know.
That's not. If it truly is an employee co-op, then all of the people participating will benefit from that monetarily.
I guess, yeah. But then they'd be out of a job.
Yeah. Well, for the right amount of money, maybe that doesn't matter.
That'd have to be a lot. Now, we've been following the IRC thing that's been
Freenode
going on,
thing.
the Freenode thing. Someone owned the domain, and it's really messy, and they're just fighting about it. And when this kind of thing happens, a lot of people, kind of like the Stallman thing, a lot of people are just like, all right, we're out.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with this.
Ubuntu is announcing their move to Libera Chat because Freenode. Just FYI, let you know.
They will not be the last. That thing is going to die quickly, and it probably should. They have said, Twitter has said that they're moving on to social media. Twitter has said they are rolling this out to their power users. Have you gotten an invitation?
No,
You're not a power user.
probably not.
How many tweets a day do you tweet?
Probably an average of like 2.
I think they need hundreds
Yeah,
to get you onto this list.
not doing it. Oh, what's the headline? Twitter debuts subscriptions to super users and new something.
Push for monetization.
Ah, okay.
New
They're
revenue
trying-
push.
Yeah, they're trying to get something other than ad revenue here. So this gives you the ability to undo a tweet for some amount of time, and it gives you more dashboard controls and stuff like that for your massive over tweeting that you're doing every day.
Oh, yeah. One of the features was like when you post, you can post a story as a series of like 10 or 15 tweets. They give you better controls for that.
Seems like that would be the kind of thing that everybody could benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
All the users.
Yeah. Well, when you're reading it, you get the benefit, but when you're writing it, it's a little cumbersome and annoying.
$2.99 a month. So it is cheap, but do you
It's
get-
another subscription service.
Nah, I've gone through and shaken all the fleas off of my subscription.
It really does add up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
And Twitter is also making some changes this time for everybody. I don't know. I feel like this just dumbs down our communication even further.
Yep.
We don't need this.
Twitter could be working on Facebook-style reactions. They include sad and cheer.
Because that does encompass my entire range of emotion. Sad or cheer.
It's idiocracy.
They have a picture in this article as well. They're horrible. They use hearts for 3 of these. They should use different emojis.
Oh, yeah. Why would
That's
they
awful.
do that?
What? Listen, Facebook's garbage, but they do this right, where each of the different reactions is a different emoji. So, like, they have an angry one that's like a little red face pouting.
Wait a
And
minute.
The crying one is like sad.
Why is sad heart? Look,
That's a
sad
good
is
question,
heart.
right?
'Cause
Yeah.
you're commiserating with them. It's like, I'm
It should
sad.
at least be a blue heart. Like,
That makes no sense.
What's the emoji for hug?
is there a hug emoji? I bet there is.
Right now, it's the skull and crossbones.
Hug emoji. Hang on, I'm looking at. There's a site called Emojipedia.
Well, while
There-
you...
There is a hug one, but he's just kind of like putting his little hands up.
Oh, it's just like someone like welcoming a hug? Oh,
Yeah, it looks like it.
yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
I guess if you put the other person in the hug without their permission,
Yes.
that could be bad.
Yeah.
Well, in the emoji, then it gets too small, like in comparison to the other emojis. But
How long before we get somebody that's mad about an unsolicited hug emoji?
What would that be?
I don't know. Remember?
Krista, that's your challenge. Unsolicited hug emoji.
unsolicited hug
I guess
emoji.
the person would just like have their arms down like that and then turn their head. Like, or you know what? There's at least 100 different Joe Biden pictures.
Well, there was that controversy about like somebody was responding to somebody else on a mailing list with like star hug star, and they were like, "No, we don't go for that."
Yeah, that was one of those Linux ones.
Yeah.
But that turned out to be a lot creepier
Yeah.
when you read it.
Yeah.
Well, on the scale of 0 to Joe Biden creepy, like where are we on the? Are we like Joe Biden breath in the ear creepy, or Joe Biden dead eye stare creepy?
I think Joe Biden and Linux forum guys are right on the same wavelength. He's just older.
You got to wonder what force of evolution has triggered that kind of reaction in both of us. Like, what was happening on planet Earth that it was a strong enough force to be, to become part of the evolutionary component?
I think I'm a dead end because I don't have the drive to breed.
Yeah.
So I think we're the problem.
Yeah.
We're not designed to be doing this nonsense. We're designed to make more of ourselves and cover the earth like a plague.
Yeah.
Fight the robot. Now, do you recall last week when we talked about anonymized medical data going to Google.
Yes.
This headline makes that seem more alarming, doesn't it?
It does. How Big Pharma finds 6 users on Facebook. We found drug ads targeted at users interested in everything from bourbon to therapy.
Now, the word awareness. Charities have been using the word awareness against us for decades. Because awareness is like, oh, we're going to take your money and we're going to do cancer awareness, which means we're going to throw a big party and spend all your money on these like beautiful things and eye sculptures and celebrity endorsements and stuff like that, and not cancer research. And Facebook, in a very similar way here, is using your desire for awareness to target what's wrong with you. So the flag isn't Krista has cancer. It's that Krista is interested in cancer awareness.
I'm pretty sure that the cancer awareness thing also gets triggered if you message somebody just being like, hey, so-and-so has cancer. It's like, oh, you're interested in that.
Technically true, right?
Yeah.
You are aware of it. So you can buy that as one of the things, you know how they used to be able to target races and stuff until they got in trouble? Well, that's going to have to happen with this.
What you need to be mentally picturing is Mark Zuckerberg with like those half-rim glasses on his face, sitting in like a chaise lounge in the corner while you're talking to your friend at all times. So anytime you bring it up Facebook to like talk to your friend or whatever, you know, you just look over in the corner and it's like, wait, is that Mark Zuckerberg with a clipboard making notes about our conversation?
You tell your friend something like really profound about, you know, like a terrible medical condition that you have, and you hear him turn his drink over. Oh,
you can hear the scribbling from across the room.
that's good.
I wonder if this is a thing in Europe, because I know here in the United States, like at least for television, we can advertise drugs on TV, but that's not a thing in the EU. They don't allow that. So I wonder if they have that same sort of rule with drug ads on social media.
I think they covered that, and the answer is no. And you would also be illegal if you were targeting them with absolute information, but because of the whole awareness thing, it's okay. And it's funny, they have in the Facebook tagging system, they have a different tag for regular diabetes awareness and type 2 diabetes awareness. Because, of course, those camps never get together.
Never. They're mortal enemies.
It's terrifying. You know, I've been secretly prepping for this my whole life by never going to doctors.
They have only misinformation in the file.
Now, it's interesting because, like we said, the narrative about what's happening in the Middle East and the old Gaza Strip is morphing. It kind of used to be that, at least in the U.S., everybody just defended Israel. And we had the whole anti-terror thing, and the lines were clearly drawn. But that's changing, and certain companies are having a tough time with it. They are not sure exactly what to do here.
NBC News reports that Facebook battles reputation crisis in the Middle East. Users are feeling that they are being censored and getting limited distribution and ultimately silenced, one Facebook senior software engineer said. So yeah, when you post something controversial on social media, which is in your unique situation is happening in your backyard, basically, they're like, let's not talk about this.
So during that little war that they had, there, as you can imagine, when buildings start blowing up in your neighborhood, you go to Twitter. You're like, oh, hey, did a building blow up in anybody else's neighborhood? Because I'm experiencing that. And Facebook just started blanket removing those.
Have you tried turning it on and off again?
The excuse they gave was, oh, we thought it was spam because everybody started doing it all at once. Because the rockets would hit all at once. So, it seems like the people of the Middle East are waking up to that whole thing and switching to other. They said that, I think Instagram was the least trusted.
Yeah. Wonder why.
And this is another article about the same kind of thing, but here we are talking specifically about activism. And I guess MSN, I assume, treats like Hamas as not activists, right?
Yeah.
They would be participants, combatants versus activists. So this is more about the people who are not, in the tunnels.
Yeah, the Washington Post, MSN.com reports this, which is originally from the Washington Post, but Facebook's AI treats Palestinian activists like it treats American black activists. It blocks them. And so this is just more of the same, where you can see the kind of, like, it's easy to see what they intend to do, but the consequences of doing it badly sort of ends badly if you need to be aware of this kind of thing happening.
And you're taking a political stance.
Yeah.
As soon as you step in and make any kind of decision here, you're taking a political stance.
Yeah.
And even if it is a source that has been known to take a side in this conflict, you can still get news from them. And they're not allowing that to happen. Have you seen the video where the girl is in the office building and she's a reporter and she's like she's wearing the helmet, she's doing the reporting, and all of a sudden it's just like boom, and she flies across the room. And they got it live on the live feed when that happened.
Wow.
Yeah, some crazy stuff came out of that little conflict. And in India, if you'll recall, they basically just set a deadline. They said, you will do what we say. You will follow these rules. And remember how crazy those rules were?
Don't talk about the cow urine.
Yeah, absolutely. That was number one. And if you don't do these things, and if you don't give us a person in your organization that you define as the person who's responsible for these, you're out. And every big tech company lined up. They did exactly what they were told.
Facebook, WhatsApp, Google, and other internet giants comply with India's IT rules. So now they've got there's a red phone basically on Modi's desk. Well, several red phones, I guess, one for each company. And so he can pick up Facebook's red phone and make demands of Twitter now.
And they have, I think it was 24 hours, right? If you don't remove it, what he wants you to remove in 24 hours, then you're in violation of these new laws. I think it's a pretty big daily fine until you do it. So that'll be good. It'll be good for the cows. Facebook upheld the old Trump ban, and if you recall, the Facebook Supreme Court group, they said, we're going to keep this ban in place, but you can no longer just leave this up to us. You must change you have to define your policies. And they kind of have, I guess.
Facebook to end special treatment for politicians after Trump ban. Going forward, politicians will be treated like everyone else. I have, something is going to happen, and this is not going to happen.
This is a pretty good illustration here. That's terrifying. We are kind of living in that world. So yeah, they still have the exception if it's something incredibly newsworthy. But otherwise, if a politician says something that was outside of their terms of service, they will still act upon it as if they were a regular user. I'm sure that they will apply this right down the middle of the political divide.
Yeah,
it'll be completely objective.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. TikTok is it's so hot with the young people, and I am completely it's a blind spot that it's always going to be there for me. I've accepted that.
Oh no, I missed this one.
I will never be cool enough to go to a flash mob birthday party.
A viral TikTok video brought chaos to Huntington Beach, and officials fear it's just the beginning.
So hilariously, this young man, it was, what was his name? Adrian or something like that? Yeah, Adrian's Kickback. So Adrian was turning 17. And he was going to have a beach birthday party. And he wanted people to come and see it. And I guess his video was really well made or something. TikTok picked it up in the trending feature. And after some amount of time, it became obvious that Adrian had lost control of the birthday party.
Well, there was 175 people arrested.
They were climbing the palm trees and throwing stuff and fighting. And as you can imagine, just rabid TikTokers descended on a location. You know who didn't go to the birthday party? Adrian. He was terrified by the time it got there.
Oh.
Oops.
He will live in infamy.
I wonder if he got arrested.
No, he wasn't there. And he didn't, he wasn't calling for people to come to his birthday party. He was just kind of doing a fun birthday party announcement. TikTok, the algorithm, picked it up. And people flew to this.
Wow.
I don't get it.
17 is such a boring birthday, too.
They blamed that, the lockdown, I guess. People were just so hyped to do something. God.
Scary.
Imagine what, like, I bet there was like 4 porta potties there or less. Because they weren't expecting this. There was no infrastructure here.
This is the TikTok.
Yeah, people probably just crapping in the street.
In the sand. Yeah, I bet that sand is just
Oh, it's like a
filled.
litter box.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the TikTok that brought us the TikTok of the person turning over the porta potty with some other person inside it.
There was a lot of really nasty things people started doing to each other.
Yeah.
The mob really just turns quickly. It's terrifying. And TikTok, in some other news, also negative because they have changed their terms of service. This one might be more nasty than the WhatsApp one.
Yeah.
TikTok just gave itself permission to collect biometric data on U.S. users, including face prints and voice prints.
Ugh.
And this is probably going to get less resistance than the whole WhatsApp change, which they walked back again.
Yeah, and if you read the fine print, I mean, it's pretty wide open here.
Yeah.
You can do pretty much anything they want. And remember, from the cheese article we did, was it last week or the week before? If your hand is in a picture, the resolution is high enough these days, they can pull your prints off that.
I can't
Oh,
wait
look
for
at my hands.
somebody to be framed somewhere else because of something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Deep fake fingerprints coming soon. And I thought this was the Russian guy at first. I didn't realize there was another one of these.
Yeah.
Boy, they are just landing planes all over the place in the former Soviet Union, aren't they?
YouTube said it took down ads featuring Belarus hostage videos. So what happened was, like, the stories that we covered and more, they forced planes down and the journalists off of them and blah, blah, blah. People that have been critical of Russia or talked about the Alexei thing where the political opponent, stuff that we covered. The guy that got poisoned and went to Germany and then had to go back to jail because he had the audacity to fly to Germany to get medical treatment. They arrested those people and then made videos where it's pretty obvious that all of those people were tortured or coerced into saying, "Oh, I did something bad."
You can almost see the gun barrel off the front.
Yeah.
And and they were paying to run them as ads on YouTube, which is pretty disgusting, pretty monstrous. And it was like, "Oh, okay, we figured that out and we've stopped the ads."
I bet it was effective though.
Yeah.
If you're living in Ukraine and you see that and you're like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be a dissident anymore.
Yeah.
We should get in line," because they're not playing around here. Back in it was probably like 2019, I guess they started this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe before that, but people were outraged and they went onto social media and they were like, "This is ridiculous. I'm coming to the US to work for Google or whatever, and they're requiring me to give over not just my accounts, my passwords. They want my passwords for social media." I wonder how multi-factor affects that.
That'd be funny.
Do they require?
It probably stops them from immediately siphoning your stuff, but then they just pick up the phone and call Twitter and be like, "Hey, this user, send us all our stuff."
Yeah, it could be.
Two-factor doesn't matter then.
But it is outrageous that, they would have the ability to reach that far into your life just for, I guess, security concerns. And Trump's administration took a lot of flack for that. Well, meet the new boss.
Biden administration continues to defend the social media registration requirement in court. Don't forget the student that came over and was not permitted entry because his friend said something.
Oh yeah, his friend was in Hamas.
Yeah.
He had well, not even his friend. They couldn't prove that it was his friend.
Yeah.
Just someone he followed on Twitter. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was crazy.
Seems like a bit of a stretch.
So a lot of people, obviously, Biden's cabinet and everything is much more liberal to this kind of thing. And they're saying, well, wait a minute. Aren't we getting rid of this? This seems kind of like an obvious one. And the White House is saying, we like this. We're keeping it.
Yeah, but this gives us control, and we like that.
Yeah. And finally, if you are a Twitch streamer and you thought that you had survived their version of the adpocalypse, or I guess the content apocalypse, don't think so. You might be thinking too soon.
Twitch warns streamers of another wave of copyright strikes that are coming. Company sent a notice on Friday, and they're basically just delete your old VODs. You don't need them. It can only hurt you.
Kind of true. All right, Krista, we're at 58 minutes.
Good Lord.
Wow.
Please give us a 1-minute garden update.
1 minute garden update. I have put out 4 tomato plants. I have Purple Cherokee, 2 Romas, and
Purple
1 cherry.
Cherokee. That's
That's
racist.
the name of the tomato.
Oh, you
Someone
can't
in the
grow
forum
those, Krista.
recommended it to me, so
You
I
can't
bought
grow
one
those,
this year.
Krista. No, you have to.
It's too
throw
late.
those
It's already
away.
out there. I've got basil planted in that bed too, and then I've got 2 red pepper plants. And the pumpkins are getting very large, like the green parts. I don't have any blossoms yet, but soon, hopefully. My apples are also blossoming. Like my new apples, I've got some blossoms on them, and I'm like, that's kind of early, because they're just like little sticks so far. But
What about the May apples?
I checked the May apples yesterday. It was not good. There was a deer in the yard the other day, which we were really excited about, until I realized that little bastard ate all the May apples out of my forest area. So I like checked all the ones that I knew had flowers on them like a month ago, because I went out and took pictures, and I was like, okay, I'll just go back to those same spots. One of them had a very obvious like bite mark out of it, so I think a deer got it. So I won't get to try one.
Engagement challenge. Please name the deer who's stealing the May apples.
There's a picture of him on my Twitter. He's an intruder, and he's at large. I think it's actually a girl, but anyway, are we at 60 exactly now?
I gave you an extra 30 seconds there, Chris.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you should be so happy. All right, we'll see you Friday.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is Friday. We're doing nonsense and robot today, which are 2 favorite categories, and also today's June 11th, which I forgot to say at the start. Do we have another orange soda today? Or orange drink?
No, he's failed over to full sugar Coke Classic.
Oh.
I haven't had a Coke in like 4 days, 5 days.
Probably been about 6 months for me. So, Kessler's syndrome. It's a problem. And it's a problem that doesn't go away. It multiplies quickly.
It's like colon cancer. You need to get yourself checked out.
And I'm amazed that it took this long. But here we are.
Space debris has hit and damaged the International Space Station. This is on the little robotic arm thingy. They're thankful that it was in the arm, but also it didn't impair the functionality of the arm. It hit the insulation jacket, but that could have been really catastrophic if that had hit, the place where the astronauts live.
Or the astronauts themselves. There's probably
Yeah.
enough plating to stop it for something that size. But
Pretty big.
I mean, that's a problem. It's going to be a problem going forward. Space janitors. That's going to be a job. It's going to be an exciting
Mr.
one.
Cleanup detail, but for space junk.
And a dangerous one. Oh, maybe you just found a new indie
new video
game.
game
hit, Krista. Yeah.
You deploy a space net to collect the junk.
They kind of have that with Shipbreaker.
Mm.
Have you seen that? You just
I've seen it, but I haven't tried it.
You just take ships apart. It's totally just turn on a podcast, and just take a ship apart. It's actually pretty good. Also, this is a robot section, but I've started using robot section as kind of a catch-all for science. So we're doing a couple of science stories before we get to the actual
It's
robots.
kind of a robot.
And
Happy Energy Robot.
they should rename it Happy Energy Robot and make one of those amazing Chinese anime.
Yeah.
It probably has one, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
probably.
Everything has one.
Chinese artificial sun hits new mark in fusion energy mission. Facility of the country's east maintains extreme temperatures for 5 times longer than its previous benchmark. Similar endeavors are underway in the United States, Russia, and South Korea. What was it, like 19 million Kelvin?
It was the hottest thing on Earth for that 5 minutes. It was an amazing amount of temperature.
160 million degrees Celsius for 20 seconds.
Do you think that would warm up a hot pocket?
Only the outside, and the inside would still be frozen.
All it is a hot pocket under 50 atmospheres of pressure. That's it.
You get a very small, very warm hot pocket at the end of that. Well, Alexa, she's a robot, and she's in your house. Why do you let her in your house? You shouldn't.
Alexa has a new secret superpower, transforming into a security camera. A new setting that recently appeared for Amazon Echo show smart displays that make them behave more like traditional security cameras. The camera's just on all the time, except it lets you know it's on all the time as opposed to just being on all the time without you knowing.
Well, so traditionally they had the drop-in feature, so you could just drop into your camera and look at what was going on. But that showed your face on the screen, so whoever was in the house knew that you were dropping in. This feature, should you turn it on, Lets you do that without anybody knowing that you're there. Now, I'm glad that we can trust Amazon to never abuse this and turn this on without our permission.
How long until law enforcement requests pop up in neighborhoods?
There probably won't be requests. They'll just quietly sell it to them.
And that's definitely going to be a part of this.
They're like, we really took some flack on that feature before, so we're just not going to let anyone know that we do that.
The thing that's going to save us here, this is my prediction. It's going to be cops being too dumb to use this. And somebody's going to be sitting there, like having a glass of wine, reading a book, and they're going to see some detective just like looking through. What?
It's like, who are you? Oh, I'm Detective Murphy. I'm just looking for a murderer.
No, when they say, who are you? He's going to be like, and then turn it off because he didn't use the correct one. He used the drop-in. And speaking of Amazon, they use AI to determine where their drivers go, like the exact path. UPS famously did this first.
Yeah.
And they saved a ton of money.
Only turn left.
By making all these fuel-saving decisions. Well, it seems like Lord Bezos has taken this one step further and one step more dangerous, or perhaps several hundred steps more dangerous.
Amazon's cost-saving routing algorithm makes drivers walk into traffic. It's pretty horrendous, although he said it much more thingy there. You're crossing multiple lanes, busy traffic. So the software is like, yeah, you need to take the package from here and get it to over there. And it's like, but through the traffic, and it's like, go, meatbag.
So it seems, the way I understand this, the algorithm isn't all that aware of the terrain. It just realizes if you park right here, you'll be able to make the next 5 deliveries quickly without using any fuel. But they don't care that there might be 6 lanes of traffic between you and one of those deliveries. So you just have to sort of Frogger your way across the highway. But you have to also do this holding packages. So it's hard mode Frogger.
The Amazon delivery drivers here really, really hate grocery day because they have multiple heavy boxes they have to bring in.
I'm sure it's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
We should appreciate the Amazon drivers. I mean, I suppose here's the question. Here's the conundrum. If I stopped using Amazon and they were out of work, are they better or worse off than if I keep using Amazon?
Well, at least one of the delivery drivers that I don't see anymore, I think they had to let him go. Literally a few times he just knocked on the door and was like, hey, I left your packages like 4 doors down because I was doing a delivery there and I figured you could go get it whenever you wanted.
I'm not okay with that. That's not okay. You can't get away with that. I'm sorry.
It doesn't seem that he has.
I appreciate your plight, but I'm not. I want no reason to ever interact with my neighbors ever. And I had to do that because of a misdelivered package already.
In our case, it was the place on the corner, so that was quite a trek.
Yeah, and if it's something heavy,
yeah,
that's probably why I did it. Well, we know that AI is being used. Facial recognition AI is constantly scraping. Clearview, yeah, they're getting slapped on the wrist for it, but right now Clearview is actively building the database. No question about it. But that's not the only kind of face. The hilarious thing I would love to see here, I would love to see somebody run these side by side and see if koala did better than African American. What do you think?
Probably so.
I mean, koalas have probably pretty distinct faces, right?
Yeah. Australian researchers launched AI koala facial recognition. Researchers are installing facial recognition technology at koala crossing locations to better monitor koala behavior and prevent vehicle fatalities. They hope AI will help us save the marsupial from extinction. Why don't they just tag them?
Look out. They always just look so surly. They're kind of adorable in a weird way, though. So what they want to know is they have these koala crossing places to try to keep them from getting hit by cars. They want to know if the same koalas are using the koala crossings over and over, or if that doesn't matter at all. So they got to keep their faces in the AI.
Tag them.
This is probably better because it's probably been trained on koala faces specifically in a way that other races aren't trained with AI.
You think there's one koala who just doesn't fit for whatever reason? What about an albino koala?
$90,000. Whew.
What do they offer something to the ecosystem? Or do we just love them because they're adorable?
I think we just love them and they're like endangered.
There's a lot of endangered species that were not cute. That we were just like, nah, don't worry about that one.
Yeah.
Or ones that were delicious. I don't know about this one. I guess it could be useful. I think this would definitely get in the way on a keyboard, don't you think?
Yeah.
I don't think I would want it for that reason.
Research finds human brains can easily adapt to controlling a robotic third thumb. I knew that without having to do the research, which is, people that have less fingers than normal adapt to that pretty well too.
Now she's wearing this armband here, and I was curious if that was part of it, but they say that you control it with a foot pedal. Which
seems weird.
Reduces the functionality of it, but they claim that you can pretty easily get used to it. So you see here, she's doing some stuff with it. And we got this one, blowing some bubbles, I guess.
No, that would be great, because when I worked with the 3-year-olds, one of the calming strategies was you'd blow bubbles for them, but this way you'd have one hand free to push them away. Because they all want to get their hands on the bubble wand. It's no. But this way you can still continue to blow bubbles to keep the others pacified, and then you redirect the other one who's trying to grab the bubble wand.
And no matter how big their tiny monster heads are, you could palm them and push them away. We have seen self-driving cars. We've seen self-driving motorcycles. We have seen self-driving planes even. And we've probably seen this too, but not at
self-driving
this,
delivery robots.
Yeah, not at this scale. And this seems like a pretty good idea.
Amsterdam tests out electric autonomous boats in its canals. So you can see there's some people relaxing and doing some stuff, and the boat's just I'm going to get you from A to B. That's my mission in life.
So this historic sailing vessel over here is a tourist attraction, and the boat is programmed to take you right next to it and let you check it out. How long until someone climbs off of the boat because there's no authority present and climbs onto the historic sailboat and starts a fire?
Not very long.
I will say that I really like grocery delivery. I like the convenience of it. It's too expensive. You're really a lazy piece of garbage when you click that button and you're like, I could just go.
It's so convenient.
I could save $20 if I just go.
It's so convenient.
I've done it several times now, but I will say I hate it when I do get off the couch and go, and all of a sudden all these shoppers are in my way, all these Instacart shoppers.
Yeah.
So Instacart knows that's a problem.
Instacart bets on robots to shrink the ranks of its 500,000 delivery drivers that they have currently employed. What about the happy medium where you show up outside a number 6 slot and you check in a number 6 slot in the app and then they just bring your groceries to you?
The pickup, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
They don't really charge you for that.
See, here's the thing about my car, though. I have to load the groceries into a mixture of the passenger seat and the net. And if anything back there is too mobile and I go into my hard braking that GM constantly chastises me for, then I might take it to the back of the head or something.
Yeah.
So
Can you just take your truck to the store? Wouldn't that solve that problem?
Yeah, but then if it's raining, you still have to put it in the cab.
Yeah.
And I'm very specific about how I balance that.
I happen to have an extra topper.
For the truck bed?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not.
I don't even know if it fits.
But, I would. Now, but if a robot is doing it, is that more or less intrusive to your shopping experience?
I think the robot would do it much faster and more efficient, and it would automatically do the route finding.
But I think in most cases, they're trying to move them out of the main store and create little pop-up warehouse sections for them.
I think ultimately that's what we have to do because, it's too much of a chore as it is right now to navigate, mega Walmart and mega Lowe's. It's it's cavernous like in Idiocracy, where it's just, rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of stores. If I could just these are the things that I need and I could just go and get them.
Although
all at once without having to find them.
Do you find, I don't know, I think you do more just let it just go week to week, right?
Yeah.
You have a recurring order, but I go in and craft my carts lovingly by hand. I find that I buy way worse food choices when I shop online. I buy so much more sugar when I have time to think about it.
But you find you do that when you do the takeout?
The delivery, yes.
Ah, okay.
That's
interesting because I feel like it would be the other way because you'd be more likely to impulse purchase while you're in the store.
I don't know. I think I've developed a resistance to that, but when it's on an online shopping, I don't have that anymore.
I think we need to develop an app that's like Blue Apron, but undercuts Blue Apron, so that like it looks at all the stuff that you're buying and figures out the most economical way to have reasonable meals that are not impossible to cook.
It wouldn't work with me because I still need the convenience. I don't know. But I am pro robot shoppers. More robot shoppers. This is a story that when I saw it, I thought this is going to be some like technicality. It's not going to be exactly what they said. But as far as I can tell,
Yeah.
it's exactly what they said.
Autonomous drone attacked soldiers in Libya all on its own. Libyan forces were hunted down and remotely engaged by an autonomous drone, a UN report says. So these drones all explode.
And it seemed like, the big question of autonomous drone murderers is how do we keep them from turning on us? It didn't seem like they knew that only their enemy was in this area.
Yeah.
So it was just don't discriminate, just kill. And I'm pretty
That
sure
look like a human? Murder it.
that's got to be a treaty violation.
The UN, the whole like completely automated whatever is not kosher under the UN rules of engagement.
Yeah, that's a problem. And if you need to, if you need some help about how that's going to be a problem, landmines. We are still dealing with landmines that were buried long, long ago. Imagine one of these little guys stuck in a tree and then something happens. A bird is building a nest and happens to flip one of the switches. That would be terrifying. We can't have that. But we will.
Every time you go outside, you have to like put on your banana sticker because like, oh, there might be a rogue drone out there. You make sure it's kind of like putting on sunscreen or like bug spray.
You get out your umbrella to stop the AI cameras. You put your banana sticker on top of the umbrella.
Yeah, but you have to have it on at all times.
The banana sticker, I think, factors heavily into the next story.
Yeah. Well, this was amazing. Did you watch the Iron Dome footage?
Yeah.
I was rapt staring at that. I was like, wow, we are living in the future.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying future, but we're living in it. And that's actually not what this is about, though. This is about choosing a target.
Yeah.
Because in the West Bank, you don't know where Hamas is. They're in different buildings and stuff like that. They have a pretty good idea, but they can't just like strike against everybody because there's a lot of civilians in there. So how do you choose? Well, in the most terrifying way possible.
The Jerusalem Post reports that Israel's operation against Hamas was the world's first AI war. So AI is how they chose some of their targets. And the whole time you should go read this article because there's a lot of really interesting stuff here. But as you peel back the linoleum on this a little bit, the algorithm defines a lot of things. We've probably already said too much on this week's episodes. How do we know that the algorithm was making reasonable choices?
So, signal intelligence, visual intelligence, human intelligence, geographical intelligence, and more. So they have a lot of data points on these locations and these people. And the AI is presumably gobbling all of that up and spitting out bomb here.
Yeah.
And if you watch those videos, they certainly did. They knocked down a couple of office buildings. Also, they're like the tunnel tactic. Did we talk about that before? What they did was they kind of announced on social media that a strike was incoming, and all the militants went into the defensive tunnels. Then they bunker busted them.
Oh.
Yeah, it's effective. I don't know how fair it is, but I guess all's fair, right? We've talked a lot about farming robots, but farming robots, they were never like one-stop shopping.
Mm-mm.
You had to kind of set everything up for them, and that seemed like almost as much work as actually just doing it. But this promises what no one has done so far.
Robots and artificial intelligence to guide Australia's first fully automated farm. So this is going to sow, plant, till, fertilize, to handle the weeds, you name it.
I think we did the John Deere story where people were remotely farming.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you're like, give me 20 screens, and that's what this is going to be.
Yeah.
You're going to be looking at all of your various machinery out there And then you can like jump in and take over, I guess, if you need to, or change something about them if you need to.
Oh, I've already threshed little Timmy. It's too late now.
No reason to stop it.
It's cool, but there's also part of me that wonders, like, how adaptable will this be? Like, will it know to rotate crops and stuff, or like, will this deplete the soil after a couple years because you're just farming the same thing over and over because you only bought the software package that deals with like soy, for example?
I doubt it's that automated. I'd say you still have to plan and, map and do everything on your own beforehand.
And tell it where to actually do its work, I guess.
I mean, we're getting to a point where, like, at what point does the new version of Farm Simulator is just this? There's a farm in France somewhere.
You're playing it on Steam, but you're not really playing it on Steam.
Yeah, exactly. And that's only in competitive mode. So, people who are just going to grief, you weed them out first. And then in the hardcore esports version, people are sitting in an arena in Frankfurt playing a game in competition that's actually a farm in France. And then you could have spectators in both places. The NFTs apparently suffered a great downfall this week. Did you follow that at all? A lot of people saying the bubble is bursting in the NFT space.
Makes sense.
Maybe that's a short-lived thing. Maybe it's to do with the crypto fallout. But we did have a first in the NFT world.
My interview with an NFT. Alice is billed as the world's first intelligent NFT. Decrypt followed her down the rabbit hole. All right, so it's not possible for AI to exist on the blockchain. Come on. This is just a link to a thing.
NFTs. That makes my skin crawl.
She's being auctioned off at Sotheby's.
Sotheby's?
Yeah.
I think they corrected us last. Sotheby's?
Sotheby's.
I can't remember.
The famous auction house.
I don't think that I would want to own Alice. She is GPT-3, so
she's definitely not on the blockchain.
You could definitely get a version of Alice for much cheaper. The little Martian helicopter continues to amaze us. It was, everybody was like, can it do one flight? Well, it's done 6. Get some of that. But I do feel kind of bad for it because its destiny is to keep going until it fails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's going to die, and we're going to watch it die. But not today.
NASA's Mars helicopter goes on stressful wild flight after malfunction. Problem with the camera-based navigation system saw the helicopter wobble through the air in the biggest tech issue Ingenuity has faced. So the camera system uses the cameras to figure out where it should be, but it also uses telemetry to limit, how far it moves and like that kind of thing. So it got out of sync slightly. There was like a timing issue where a frame was dropped and the software was making decisions about data that was not actually relevant anymore. Like the thing had moved on. And so that caused it to overcompensate and basically oscillate. Well, they got it. They were able to land it. And, they were like, well, it operated just right around the operational envelope that we expected. So it actually performed pretty well.
And that's important
Yeah.
for automation on Mars. It needs to be able to deal with the unexpected.
Yep.
So, good job. So impressed by the Mars rover teams.
Doing his best.
They did do a pretty good job.
Moving on to nonsense, and I'm a big advocate of Nestle Pure Life water because it is the most delicious water. And I'll fight you. I'll fight you if you tell me otherwise. In fact, actually, you know what? This is Deer Park because Kroger delivery.
Yeah. We have that problem too.
And it's disgusting.
Is Deer Park better or worse than Kroger brand? Because I actually think Kroger brand is better than Deer Park.
I don't know if I've had, we used to have Kroger brand a lot here.
Yeah.
I think I remember not liking that or not hating that.
Yeah.
So maybe it is better.
They keep subbing it for, like, we're still Nestle Pure Life, but they've delivered that maybe one time in the last year.
Which is weird because Meyer always has it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there. Maybe the truck stops there first. But one thing about it, if you think Nestle just sells water, oh boy, is that the tip of the iceberg. They sell an insane amount, down to, cat food and stuff like that. They sell almost everything. And there's a dark secret about their entire portfolio.
The cat food that I mentioned like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, was that on this program? I don't remember. It was recalled. It poisoned a bunch of people's pets.
Oh, but you
No.
said that your mom's cat reacted poorly to it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
What brand was that?
I don't know. It's Blue Can.
Ugh.
They were like, oh, we had a bad batch. Sorry.
Well, this isn't that kind of problem at Nestle.
Yeah.
Nestle under fire over unhealthy products is working on a new strategy.
So this was a investor call. That is where you get the truth from companies, as opposed to obvious lies. And they admitted 60% of their food and drink lineup is not part of a recognized definition of health. In other words, heavily processed garbage.
Yep.
That's delicious.
It is delicious.
Yeah. I don't understand why they're trying to change something that's working for them.
Well, it's because people seem to be getting more health conscious these days. And it's like a marketing trend, and they recognize that they are not positioned to take advantage of it.
They should lean into how they already are, though, where it's like, we're your cheat day.
Yeah, it should be like they sell you a product, and the packaging just overwhelmingly is, maximum flavor. Full
Yeah.
calories, 200% of your daily recommendation of sugar, and then a big yellow banner made by slaves. Just become the most evil become the corporation that they are on paper.
You've been eating kale all week? Have some, Hot Pockets to make up for it.
Hot Pockets are a terrible food. I think they are Nestle, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think they are, too.
I remember liking Hot Pockets when I was a kid, but I had some maybe like a year ago. They were terrible.
I don't like Hot Pockets. They're hard to get the right temperature.
Well, you need a salt thorium reactor, Krista.
Yeah.
I always love a good pet story, and this one was hilarious just in terms of the overreaction. But I guess at a school you kind of got to err on the side of that, or
You never know when something's going to have rabies.
yeah.
Bobcat causes Pennsylvania high school evacuation. Revealed to be a missing house cat. Oops.
He was chipped. They found the owner. He's back. He's missing his tail, and they blame that as the reason they thought he was a bobcat. He also has some special coloring there. Although that just looks like a straight tabby to me. Doesn't that to you?
Yeah.
He's just a cat. Very obviously just a cat.
If I was at that
Meanwhile-
school... Go ahead, Krista.
Oh, you go.
If I was at that school and they told me to evacuate and I saw that cat, I would just go pick the cat up and love him.
Probably get detention or expelled.
Chris, what are you saying?
I was going to say, meanwhile, in eastern Kentucky, there are black bears that frequent the dumpsters at some of the schools, and they're like, just reroute the buses, it's fine.
Yeah, wow. Wonder how I got in there. Aren't they supposed to have really good security at the doors of schools?
Yeah. Supposed to.
Maybe an open window somewhere.
I don't think the really good security is going to fight a bear off for the children, though.
No, but I'm thinking like a child abductor.
Oh, I don't know that the security is going to fight off anybody that's super intimidating.
Well, here's this repulsive headline. I can't think of a word dark enough. And I don't even care about this kind of thing. I hate children. But even I understand how just reprehensible this is.
A Make-A-Wish leader confesses to embezzling from charity for critically ill children. Former CEO of the Iowa chapter used the foundation credit cards to give himself unapproved bonuses and salary increases. Not a good look.
41,000.
Now, it's not a lot of money considering
That's-
what they take in, but imagine what you could do for a sick kid with $40,000.
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant amount,
It
I
really
would
is.
say.
If nothing else, you could give a parent like a year off of work to take care of the kid. Oof. 10 years in prison. The 10 years in prison is only because it's over $10,000. If it was less than $10,000, it would be a very minor offense, even though it's extenuating circumstance.
Still equally terrible.
A lot of this kind of stuff happens and we never even hear about it just because they're like, well, just give the money back and nothing bad will happen.
Now I don't know how the law works, but could the judge, could this be aggravated theft?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it should be. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's a slippery slope and I shouldn't say that. This one was confusing. At first, I thought that there was sort of like a bombing run,
No.
but I think it was just for show.
Yeah. Kerfuffle after drone-carrying sex toy disrupts Albuquerque mayoral event. This isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened, but it's just like, this is such a farce and tragedy. It's like a New Mexico event disrupted as 20-year-old called candidate tyrant while swinging fist.
Are they telling me that guy's 20 years old?
No, the 20-year-old was the one who disrupted it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they're not sure, they can't prove it yet, although it seems pretty likely, that one of his friends was operating the drone, and then he came up to sort of attack in person.
So there is a video here. I didn't see the video before, and it is exactly what it says on the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he claims that because obviously every head turned when that happened, and the noise that the drone made, it ruined his ability to speak.
Yeah.
NASA is heading back to the space station. They're going to study some things, and some adorable things are getting studied this time around.
NASA to launch baby squid to International Space Station. Squids in space.
Our image did not load here. There they are. Look at those little
Look
guys.
how cute they are.
That's so cute.
Unfortunately, they will be frozen before they're brought home. I don't think
Oh.
they survived that.
No.
That's not really a feel-good story.
But imagine the fun they're going to have on the way up. Also, they have those tardigrades, the water bears, also mixed in with the squids, and will also be studied after they're basically killed.
Those survive. You can't kill those. They survive
Yeah.
anything.
They're supposedly able to survive raw space. So, oh, they're so adorable. Squids, less adorable when they're older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little ones are nice, though.
Now, I couldn't help but think about you here, Wendell, because as we know, you have a fairly dangerous shrimp allergy, which you play fast and loose with.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, he
So,
carries an EpiPen. It's there
fine.
for a reason.
Now, if you had,
Shrimp
if,
are
you-
just so tasty.
if somebody came up to you and they had like just this amazing, he's like, this is a cicada chalupa, and it looked really good, would you be tempted?
I'll probably try it.
Even knowing this?
Don't eat cicadas if you're allergic to seafood, the FDA warns. They share a family relation to shrimp and lobsters. So this is marketing agencies, listen up. Here's your in. Cicadas are now land shrimp. Make it happen.
I haven't seen a lot of cicadas here yet.
It's a
I've seen a
delicacy.
few.
And the mascot for your food line should be the land shark. Land shark. Terrestrial seafood. Here's a crazy headline, and it's not quite what they say it is. And I would argue that this has nothing to do with any of it, because honestly, if you didn't already know that The Rock was a Pacific Islander, would you know it by looking at him?
No.
I think The Rock's success has less to do with his race and more to do with the fact that like he built a huge following before he got to Hollywood
Yeah.
and basically made them let him in.
Yeah.
And then continued to dominate.
A third of Asian American Pacific Islander roles in top films played by The Rock, a study shows. There just aren't enough roles for Pacific Islanders and Asian actors in general, and that's why we see The Rock so many times. Is it though?
I remember watching that. I can't remember what the name of the movie was. It Hobbs and Shaw, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that the one where he has to go back to his home island
Yeah.
and defend it? And they're like, we will only use the weapons of our people. And you're like, oh, okay. And then they use gasoline and engines and flares. I don't think those were all invented on an Asian Pacific island.
Attempt to be woke failed.
That wasn't a terrible movie, though. This headline, as a lawmaker, how do you pass this law and then not just say, "Wait, shouldn't we do this for everybody?" It makes sense to me that this should cover everybody. Why doesn't...
Illinois approves ban on police deception in juvenile interrogations. So when they're interrogating somebody underage, they're not allowed to lie or mislead anymore.
Turns out when a kid is in an interrogation room and completely freaked out and they don't know what's going on, you suggest something to them, they're just like, whatever will get me out of this room. Yes.
Yeah.
It's whatever you say, sir. I don't care. I just need to solve this right now. And they don't. And actually, adults do that too.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to sit in that room all day. All day, chat. Poop in the corner if you have to.
Well, there's been stories, at least I've heard in the past, where it's like the police will say something like, "Oh, you're not going to be able to see your parents again until you talk about this thing."
Yeah.
So that probably would get banned under this as well,
Yes, absolutely.
which is nice.
You got to check out the JCS psychology channel. I guarantee you watch 2 or 3 of those videos. If you even see a cop car, you'll just stop talking. Like you could be in it, they could be 100 yards away and you see them and you just stop your conversation. Because, my God, they do it every day. You are not going to beat them at it.
No.
Especially if you're 12. How long has it been since Harambe?
Oh, many
5
years.
years, I think 2016.
How quickly we forget. The horizon of, societal memory apparently is 5 years.
I miss him every day.
Texas woman fired after climbing into monkey enclosure and feeding them flaming hot Cheetos. Those are the only things that saved her life.
But this points out the problem. Maybe in this instance, it's not a problem, but the problem with social media, she did not work at the zoo. She worked at a law firm. And when they saw that video, they were like, no, she's done. We do not hire those kinds of morons here at this law firm.
You gotta wonder what was going through her mind.
Yeah, like what I mean, it's not good and I don't fully understand it, but like in the Harambe instance, that was a kid who just was stupid and then climbed in some place they weren't supposed to be. This is an adult woman.
Yeah, well, I got to think
this was intentional.
This had to be for the video, right? Like it had to be a TikTok or something.
Something.
Oh well.
Weird.
Do you think those monkeys, like they enjoyed it? They're like, wow, this is weird, but I'm kind of into it. And then,
Look at the spicy food endorphin.
12 hours later, they were taking just a hot Cheetos dump, and they're like, what's going on?
I'm dying.
They fling it across their enclosure.
Steam rolling off of it. And I had to end on this one because, what can you say? It's just the most disgusting thing in the world.
Illegally owned guns confiscated from home of anti-gun Democratic mayor in New York. Wow. Another case of a politician telegraphing exactly what they're doing behind closed doors.
Projecting. If you hear a pastor or a hardline Republican senator bashing homosexuality, guess what? And the same goes for the left and guns. It was her boyfriend's gun, who was a felon.
Don't say that. Jesus.
Do you think in all of her gun research, she read that law?
She's the mayor.
So she championed all these programs, and sure enough, now her house was raided because said boyfriend got caught with a little cocaine in a drug dragnet. Guess who started it?
She did.
It was her.
Oh.
Boy, that's you think he was hiding it from her, or did she know?
No, New York is approaching Chicago levels of corruption. It's really insane. Louis Rossman, the repair guy, he got a citation from New York City for not reporting laptops that were e-waste to the anti-theft system. So how like pawn stores have to log laptops into the thing? He had some laptops that people had brought in for repair that needed repair, that he gave them a quote for the repair, and then they never picked them up. And so like after 6 months, there's a store policy that they have to sign when they drop it off. It's like, if you abandon this in 6 months, it's mine.
That was the Hunter Biden thing.
Yeah, and so he got a hefty fine for not using that system. But he's like, I don't buy laptops from customers; they only abandon things. And so he called him and was like, he called the helpline to be like, do I have to do that? And they're like, we don't know. And he's like, well, I got a citation for it. And they're like, I guess just go to court and figure it out. So New York is unbelievably corrupt.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I mean, New York is probably more corrupt, but certainly those states are right there with them.
I guess this is New York State because it's Rochester, not New York City, but New York is just city and state. It's
New
like,
York
ugh.
City, you wouldn't even have those in the first place.
Yeah.
So it wasn't illegal that she had guns. It was because of the boyfriend.
Yeah.
It was her husband.
Oh, was it husband? Yeah,
It was
I'm
husband. But still, yeah, he was still a felon according to that article. So not good.
Nothing will happen to her.
No.
I hope that there's a follow-up to this. They might just ignore it after this, but we're going to find out that it's fine. Don't worry. I like how bearingarms.com has a quote here. The good news for Warren is there are 2 fewer guns on the street.
That might be facetious.
That's what she wanted. All right, Krista, can you give us a squid-related goodbye? A baby squid.
Oh, baby squid.
Baby squid.
Bye.